Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. This is going to be another episode of SNTR Gaming News talking about the return of the Tenrai event in Halo Infinite and asking the question, is it any better? They did make some changes. I'll outline those changes for you, as well as talk about sort of the good and the bad and the room for improvement. If you like these videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we're usually here doing live shows Monday through Friday, and this little update right at the beginning is probably what you're looking for. This is an SNTR update. The Halo Infinite Tenrai event has returned, in a series of updates have been put into the event. Some of them good, some of them still seemingly hamstrung by the design of the game and where it sits right now. I'm going to walk through those things for you. If you like these videos, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell button so you don't miss my uploads, or check out SNTR Gaming, where I streamed this live. So first, let's just outline the previous problems. You can see quick flashes of the armor here. This was their trailer to announce its return, and the Kabuto armor, I believe it's called, was not included in the Tenrai event battle pass last time, even though it was all over the promotional materials. They apologized for that, and they have since put that armor set in the battle pass for free. You can earn it as long as you progress through the battle pass and do various things. They also removed XP bonuses and challenge swaps to add more content to the battle pass. There still are XP challenges in battle, and challenge swaps, but they're earlier on the pass. I think once you get past like 3, they're gone. So they did good updates. They also raised it from, hey, you can only get 7 items during the week, but now you can get 10. That's a good change, but I still think it's attached to a design philosophy in the game that is really harming the structure of the game. I believe the game is still hamstrung by the fact that they're having to stretch this season out by 6 months. There's even clues in the game right now to indicate what their original plan was. You just have to know where to look. So their design philosophy right now is basically that they have to make the content they've built lasts for 6 months. So even the battle pass for Heroes of Reach, I believe, is stretched incredibly thin. The progress is still incredibly slow. The updates they made to XP are good, but they don't really land on the common player or a player with a unique schedule. We crunched the numbers. If you did 4 games a night, Monday through Friday, that would be 20 games. You would level up like 4 times on the battle pass. If you did all of those 20 games like on a Saturday, because that's what your schedule is like, those 20 games wouldn't even net you 2 level ups. It would be like 1750 or something like that, and you need 2,000, 1,000 per level. So it's like the structure of dictating like how much you can and when you can, I just don't think lands on players that have either schedules that require them to play more on a particular day or more during a particular event. So if you wanted to earn all the Tenrai stuff right now because the last one you missed out on and your schedule's going to change coming up, it'd be like, well, okay, I'll blast through it now. Well, no, you can't. There's 30 things on the pass and you can only get 10. And what happens if you miss a week? What are they going to do as this progresses? Are you going to get less items? Like, oh, the 1 week I got 4, and then the next time I got 4, that's only 8. I got 22 items left to get, and you wouldn't be able to get them all. And I know people would say, well, it's going to happen 6 times. Keep in mind, that's not the original design for this mode. The in-game UI shows you what the original plan was. It was going to happen 3 times. It was going to happen November and then January and February, with December being the winter event. So basically, a 4-month season, and every month there's sort of an event that happens. And that, I think, is good game design. That's exciting. If you remember or play Destiny, they have Iron Banner every month. This would sort of be like their version of that. And I think that's a good idea. But when you stretch it out over 6 months and you tell people, well, you can only get so many items each time, that basically means you have to play every single time. They made promises about minimizing FOMO and not wanting to sort of weaponize people's desires to get all the items against them. And the current design of Tenrai is not, I would say, minimizing FOMO. It's maximizing it. Fear of missing out is what FOMO stands for. And it's like, well, if I miss or don't get enough items, I'm not going to get them all. Now, if they open the floodgates on the final one and let you get as many as you want, that's great. But that's still not great for people who maybe they could only play a bunch in February, their schedule changes, and then they can't jump back in. Really committed players may have their schedules change, their life change, and I think 343 needs to consider that going forward. So, to summarize, the previous setup of the Tenrai event was pretty poor. That was apologized for by 343, and they have made adjustments to the game. The new setup is better for the Tenrai event. You can get the Kabuto armor that was previously advertised and not included, the one that looks more traditional like a samurai armor set, and you can get that for free on the Battle Pass. However, the structure of the event is still limiting how many items you can get. They upped it from 7 to 10, which, again, is good, but I believe the design philosophy of this game is still stuck in a 6-month block. They're having to stretch their existing content out to 6 months. I think the original plan seemed fine to have about a 4-month season, and every month this event was happening. I still don't think you should be limiting how many items people can earn. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear from you. As always, if you like these videos, hit subscribe and the bell button, or check out SNTR Gaming, where I typically stream these live, and I will see you in the next video. And I'll see the rest of you right now. They've made good strides. I want to give them credit. I don't want to just bash them, right? I don't want to bash them, but this, again, I feel like their design philosophy is not rooted in what's good for the player or good for the game. It's rooted in the fact of our season has to last for 6 months, right? You like the fresh cut? Looking good, right? I was a mess yesterday. I ran out of product. My hair was all floppy and long. I was very, very pleased to get it chopped back. Personally, says Rampant Pikachu, I think if you want something badly enough, make time to play. If you can't play, you won't get it. I work 60 hours a week, have a family, and I make time to play as well as tend to my family. Listen, that attitude is fine for you, but understand something. That is not a good business attitude to have. You want customers. You don't want soldiers. Like, you see what I'm saying? You're talking about employee corporate-minded speak. Like, they're customers. They're not employees. They're not signing up for a college class. Well, you better make time for it. What the frick? It's a video game. You're talking like it's a college class or a job. It's a video game. It's meant to be leisure and fun, not you better make time for it or you won't get the stuff, especially since they made assurances they were gonna put less FOMO in their game. But why? Because they know people don't like it. You want low barriers of entry. That's exactly right. These are customers. These aren't soldiers or employees or students that you can, like, lecture about making time. Like, that's such an odd posture. Like, that's fine for you. That's your attitude. That's your approach. Good for you. But the average person isn't treating video games that way. That's just a bizarre attitude. I don't even think it's their attitude. You want to know what their attitude is? I'll tell you. What's good? Feed, I see you in the chat. Their attitude is, we got to make this last. It's 6 months, and this is all we've got, right? This is all we got, and we got to make this last. And so their design philosophy is not being dictated by, this would be good for the player, or this would be in line with what players want. It's, no, we have to fit this into a 6-month period. Think of it this way. Let's take the movie series The Lord of the Rings, okay? And let's imagine that you want to watch the 3 Lord of the Rings movies, but you need, for whatever reason, you need to break it into 30 parts over the course of a month. It would be incredibly disruptive to the flow of the movie, to the character arcs, to the intensity, to just arbitrarily be like, 30 minutes, ding, stop. Right? Or whatever the time limit would be, not 30 minutes. Like, just imagine you would break the movies into equal parts so that it spanned a 30-day period. So a little timer would go off, and then the movie just shuts off. Why would that be bad? Because you're not doing something that is designed around what's good for the engagement with the movie. You're doing some sort of arbitrary, we have to make these movies last for 30 days, so we're going to break them apart, and every evening we're going to watch 41.5 minutes. It would be so stupid. Somebody would say, why would you do that? And that's what they're doing to this game. They're taking an external need of, we made this much content, we need it to last for 6 months, and they're basically taking the content and they're just going like this with it. And it'll snap back, and I think it'll cause problems. I genuinely was having fun yesterday, ran out of challenges, and was like, well, what am I supposed to do now? I had to spend money to get an extra challenge slot. And then there was only one event challenge I could have done. I would have had to work on other challenges to get other event challenges to scope up. And when I'm staring down the barrel of an item limit, I lose motivation. I'm like, forget it. Just forget it. That's my attitude. Why would I? What? Well, I can only get 10, and I look at the 10 items I can earn. They're not that exciting. They're not that good. It gets better as you go. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with taking your battle pass and, slowly making it cooler because you want to, get people to play and motivate engagement. That's fine. But when I enter the week knowing I can only get 10 items, and I look at the 10 items and I'm like, meh, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's worth it. It just doesn't seem like it's worth it. I'm out of challenges anyway. And if I want more event challenges, I got to go do stuff I have no interest in. I got to go play other game modes. I got to go into ranked. I got to go into tactical or whatever the frick. You got Fiesta, Tenrai, Samurai, Armor. Boom. I'm in. I'm playing Fiesta. I'm laughing. Now, the last couple Fiesta games, we got a little irritated, but that has nothing to do with the event. I think there are some things they could do to make Fiesta better, like maybe ensure that both teams get an equal amount of, spawning with a sword and a grapple, because when people are spawning with a sword and a grapple on some of the smaller maps, and you're running around with a dadgum sniper rifle, that's really irritating. That you're setting the player up for failure. It's funny, one or two times, but we got into a bit of a rut with the game mode. That has nothing to do with the Tenrai event. The Halo Infinite Tenrai event, in my mind, is just such a great rhythmic thing to do. Every month you've got this cool thing going on. Now, I know what people are going to say. They're going to say, well, hang on a minute, Lono. If they don't cap you on the items, who's going to play in the Tenrai events the second and third time it happens? And my answer to you is the people that still need to get the stuff, so they're more enthused and excited. Do you honestly want your player base to feel like they're punching a dadgum time card? Like, kaplunk, all right, here's my third week. Kaplunk, all right, here's my fourth week of Tenrai. No, think about it like this. Let's say we get to the 4th and the 5th month of the Halo Infinite Battle Pass. We get to the 4th or the 5th month. And the player numbers are dipping a little bit because everybody's kind of gotten their stuff. They've worked their way through the battle pass. They've gotten their Tenrai stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. Your engaged player base at that point in time would be the people that either still care about getting the battle passes or the battle pass things, or they're just continuing to play, or maybe they have a couple more Tenrai things to get. Maybe their schedule just didn't allow them to get a whole lot the first couple of times. So your engaged player base is a player base that wants to play. Or in some sense, maybe they need to play. They want to get all these things before the season ends because they want to... Not that they don't take the season away, by the way. You can always go back and complete... You can always go back and complete an old battle pass. Let's smash like. Let's get the first 100 likes. We're having a slightly slower start today. We can kind of jolt the stream if we get those likes up. Do you see the point that I'm making? Do you really want the 4th and the 5th month of a 6-month season to be a bunch of begrudging players that are like, yeah, I've got a couple more things to get on Tenrai, and I got a couple more things to get on the battle pass. You know what I'm saying? Your stream is so good, it's not helping with my procrastination issues. Well, I'm sorry about that. If you're tuning in and enjoying the show about the Halo Infinite event update, we are covering it, and I still think, and I still worry, I'm trying to paint the picture here. They're doing good things. They're making good improvements, but they're doing it in a hamstrung box. They've got this box, they've got this format, and they're hamstrung. Everything has to continue to fit into a 6-month seasonal format. And that is creating, I think, a sabotaging effect on the game. Every good thing they try to do gets immediately sabotaged by that. They're like, well, we made these updates and da-da-da-da-da, and you're like, yeah, but justify me only getting 10 items a week. Justify that. Do it. What are you going to say? Well, you're going to have to take the veil off and be like, well, the fact of the matter is we don't have enough content presently, so we really need to stretch this content out for 6 months, and so we're having to limit because we really need you to continue to log in the 4th, 5th, and 6th months, so we simply can't let you get all the Tenrai stuff. Well, obviously they're not going to say that, but that's the reason. That's the reason. They just need to chalk it up to a lost season. You're far better off formatting this so players enjoy themselves, and you have 3 or 4 months of people being like, this is great. I got stuff for playing. I progressed for playing. The Tenrai event was fun. I got samurai armor. This is great. It's totally fine to have your 5th and 6th month be a dip. Why? Because that dip is the result of satisfaction and completion. And guess what? When your 2nd season lands, that dip is going to turn into a rocket ship because everyone's like, yes, a new season. The last season was dope. I got all this stuff. It was awesome. I took a couple month break. I mean, February's coming anyway. I mean, everybody's going to be playing something else. You got Horizon Forbidden West. You got Witch Queen. You got Elden Ring. Like, come on. If we would have gotten into February and been like, what a perfect time to take a break from Halo. I got all my stuff. And there's a monsoon of games coming out. There's nothing wrong with that. Stop being scared of disengagement. I think that's the issue. It's like there's this fear that, like, oh, people are going to stop playing if they get all the stuff that they want. What a horrible thing that would be. Oh, gosh. The horror of people putting the game down for a month and going and doing something else. Come on. It's just, I don't know. It's got to be frustrating for the devs. It's got to be frustrating for the community managers to have to keep coming out and saying, oh, hey, we'll try to fix this. We'll try to adjust this. We'll try to fix this. And the entire time you're doing it, it's like working on a car and fixing the engine trouble and fixing the power windows and putting some polish on it, right? And you still have a flat tire, okay? The car is only going to run as well as the flat tire allows. You could change the oil, you could work on the engine, you could give it a complete overhaul so that, like, it stops having all these engine troubles and all these issues. It still has a flat tire. It's still going to take you incredibly long to get from point A to point B. So you could sit down and be like, hey, these are our plans for your car. Here's all the great things we're going to do. If you don't fix a flat tire, this kind of doesn't work. Like, what difference does it make? Or they run flats. That's why the experience was so low in the beginning. They knew the battle pass was supposed to last 6 months. So if they increased the XP, people would earn things so quickly and run out of things to unlock. Yeah, and that's totally fine. You know, that's totally fine. I don't know. I was so glad when they did that stream. They apologized. They made it clear that they did some things, like they didn't look at the assets close enough, you know, the samurai armor and all of that. I'm like, okay, this is good. This is good candor. This is how you handle a situation like this. This is good. This is what you want to do. This is what you want to hear from developers and from community managers. So I'm thinking, okay, the next Halo Infinite event, it'll be better. And it is. But the margin of how much better it is so small because it's a car with a flat tire. It's like, this is great. This is better. Yeah, they did a stream. It was in December, was it not? They basically we covered it a week or so ago where we said they apologized to the community. They're like, we're sorry. We jacked some of this up. They didn't say that, but you know. We heard you while not listening or caring. No. Let me make something perfectly clear. I think that they are listening. I think they have a very good grasp on what the community wants, but they cannot fix the flat tire. They can't. You know, it would be like going to the body shop or the mechanic and he's like, I can't fix your flat tire. We got to order one special. How long is it going to take? It's going to take 6 months. You got some, I don't know, German car or something, and they have very specific specs for the tire, and they got to order the tire. So it's literally going to have a flat tire for 6 months, or you're going to have to ride on a spare or whatever. That's the nature of the game right now. We know. We hear you. We know you're frustrated about these things. And they're making all these like little teeny tiny adjustments and changes, and all of that is happening in this box that says all this has to last for 6 months. This all has to last for 6 months. It cannot go quicker than that. Somebody somewhere just needs to be like, it's not a big deal if people get everything and take a break. One thing they should do is implement in some sort of rank system that just levels up the more you play, so you can understand how long your teammates have been playing, sort of like Call of Duty's prestige thing. Oh yeah, like a number next to your name or something. Yeah. If you're just tuning in and enjoying the show, I like Halo Infinite, so I'm not trying to bash on it. I'm not trying to hit it and take cheap shots. I just feel like they continue to make really, really good, really good strides and updates, but they're just so constrained and hamstrung. 2 light roasts to Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider, thanks for ordering some coffee, getting 2 light roasts. Somebody ordered some Frickmas this morning, and we had that label situation where I had a blank label that was going to get wasted, so I printed somebody's order this morning. If you guys are enjoying the show, do me a favor, hit subscribe, hit the like button. This is gonna be a light. I think it's gonna be a light stream unless we get some wind here. The May updates will be the one. Forge, co-op, and the game will feel more complete. Hopefully, firefight, maybe Warzone. I love that game type. I'm just tuning in, so maybe I'm misunderstanding. Are you arguing against time gating? I believe time gating has its place, but I don't think it can be done in the extreme ways it's being done in Halo Infinite. Time gating has its place, okay? I'll give you an example. Anytime you, like, the Halo Battle Pass, okay? It's totally fine to say, okay, listen, you can't play, like, 3 games and get everything. We have to set a certain rhythm of XP so that it does last an ample amount of time, okay? So that is intrinsic time gating. Does that make sense? Just basic leveling in a game or leveling a battle pass. That's intrinsic time gating. You must put in a certain amount of time to get these items, and it's paced in a way that you're not like playing for 20 minutes and you get everything, okay? I think intrinsic time gating is totally fine. Arbitrary or rigid time gating, I think, is where things go awry, right? I think that's where things go awry. So a rigid time gate would be what they're doing with you can only get 10 items. Well, why? There doesn't seem to be a reason for that. If you've got good intrinsic time gating on the Halo Infinite event Battle Pass, if you've got good intrinsic time gating on that, I have to play so many games or do so many things to get the items, why are you limiting me to 10? Well, the reason is they need it to last for 6 months, right? So if you do good intrinsic time gating, it's not really time gating. It's more like time pacing. You're just like pacing the player along so they continue to play and they continue to get things and items or whatever. And then when you come in with like just blatant rigid time gating, it tends to frustrate people. Why? Because you're essentially telling them no. Nobody likes to be told no. Children to adults. Nobody wants to hear no. It's like, well, can I go and get no? Can I play more? No. I need more challenge? No. It's like, why? Why is the game constantly telling me no? Explicit or artificial time gating. Right, like there's I don't know about explicit or artificial. Like, to me, it's like there's just inherent time gating in a game. Like, you can't get everything right away, right? You got to put in, you got to play 100 matches, let's say. You got to play 100 matches to get, so far on a battle pass or something. Well, I mean, that's totally fine. It's reasonable to say, hey, look, you got to put in time to get these things. You got to play the game, essentially. Like, how dare the game ask you to play it? Like, I can't believe this, that the game actually wants me to play it. Like, no, I don't think anybody would react that way. They'd be like, yeah, no, it makes perfect sense to play the game. By the way, I missed the first event for the first 10. Do I have access to up to 20 now, or I can only get 10 ranks? Douglas, that's an excellent question. The first time you could only get 7. They've increased it from 7 to 10. It is my understanding that regardless of what you did in the previous event, you will only get 10 items this time. And that's what turned me off from the event, because the first 10 items aren't that great. I skipped the first Halo Infinite Tenrai event. I skipped it. I didn't play. Right? So I was like, Halo Infinite gameplay is super fun, and I have a good time, but I was doing something else when that happened. I can't really remember. I did the winter event. I got about halfway through the winter event battle pass. But again, I just got annoyed with the idea of I had to keep logging in every day to get an item. It just felt like a freaking advent calendar or something. I'm like, what, just give me the stuff, right? And yesterday, I experienced something very, very similar with the Halo Infinite event update. Felt something very similar. I felt as if I was being told no. I was having fun. I was playing Fiesta. We had a couple of salty matches near the end. I didn't get that salty. I just kind of got annoyed. It just got really lopsided with respect to our team kept being given really bad snipers and stuff, and we're on a cramped map, and they kept getting swords. Well, that's a little annoying, and that's fine. Getting annoyed at a video game is normal. You're not going to play every game with a grin on your face. And so I was having fun. It was like Fiesta, getting challenges, getting unlocks. And then all of a sudden, I ran out of challenges. So I spent money to unlock the extra slot on my challenges, so I got another event challenge. And it didn't go that quickly. It was taking some time. And I got disincentivized because it was like, well, even when I finish this event challenge, there's no more event challenges unless I do a bunch of other weeklies, like go play Oddball. I'm sorry, but frick you. I can't go play Oddball. I have to go into a playlist and hope it shows up just to get this stupid challenge off my roster of challenges. Oh, come on. Come on. That's not... So I come to the Tenrai event, and after a very moderate amount of gameplay, I didn't even play that long. We played maybe 4 or 5 games before it's like, all right, that's enough fun. Get to work. Yeah, go into ranked. Go play Oddball. Go play Tactical. Get the frick out of here. It's like they're blowing the whistle at me in the pool. Boop. Like, number 6, your time's up. Get out. You're done. You've had enough fun for the day. What the what? Huh? Why can't I just keep playing? Why, the Fiesta's fun. I'm playing with my friends. I'm getting stuff from the event. They're like, no. You've made a tactical error here. You think this is about fun? No. No. This is about daily logins. So get out of here and come back tomorrow. Okay. I guess I'll listen. I guess that's what I'll do. It feels like a restaurant that won't let you order 2 large orders of fries for yourself. That sounds very specific to you, Zubair. English I forgot to thank you for your renewal. You did it during my intro. I actually got reminded about this one. Come on, YouTube, with your live stream improvements. Yeah, they're making improvements to the live streaming environment. They're still doing stuff on the website. I don't know what they're doing. None of the banners are working on on desktop. So I don't know what's going on. Hey, a brand new membership from Corey. Thank you so much, Corey. Welcome to SNTR Gaming Tier 1. Enjoy your dope badge and emotes. You're dope and deserve dope stuff. Thank you so much. If you guys are new and you haven't hit subscribe yet, go ahead and do that. You can comment in the chat. Let's see. Halo Infinite Tenrai event. Should they remove all time gates? Should they remove all time gates? Yes or no? Yes or no? Should they still have... I'm curious what you guys think. Should they still have some time gates, or should they just remove them all? Just, you can get all the items. No problem, right? Whatever it is, it's always busted. I have no idea what site you're talking about. I just got here. YouTube's doing something this week. They updated their terms of service today, and they're starting yesterday. If you go to any YouTube channel on desktop, like the top banner is just like not there. It's just black. It's like, what is going on? I don't know what's happening. Ferryman says, the battle pass is not fun. It should not be fun. The game is... Oh, golly, here we go. The game is supposed to be fun, and it really isn't, so everyone is taking it out on the battle pass, which makes no sense. If the game was fun, no one would care. This is a ludicrous claim. This is absolutely ludicrous. No. Have you watched a Friday night stream with custom games? We have a blast. Were you watching me yesterday? I had a fine time. Until the last two games where it got a little slanted, I was having fun. I was laughing. What are you even saying? The game isn't fun, so people are taking it out on the battle pass? Listen, I got news for you. If the game wasn't fun, nobody would be talking about the battle pass because nobody would be playing. They'd be like, that game's not fun. That game's garbage. That's not true at all. They're moving the top 135 characters of the about page to your channel header. Oh, that's one of the UI changes? Okay. That's cool, I guess. If the game was not fun, we would not be having this conversation because people would be like, it's not fun, I'm not playing. Who cares about the battle pass? It's a snooze fest out here, right? They'd be talking like Doc. They'd be like, oh, it's a snooze fest, man. The game's boring. No. Literally everybody going to the forums is talking about like, man, gameplay feels great, but I'm not getting anything I'm not progressing at all. Rex says, I finished the battle pass one day before the winter contingency, and after that I finished that. I had nothing to play for apart from the love of the game. We need long-term progression. Okay, so Rex is taking the position. This is a common position, Rex. You're not alone in this. I think you're fatally wrong, but there's a lot of people who think the way that you just outlined is that we need long-term progression or I'll have no reason to play. Okay. There's an element of truth to what you're saying, but all truths can be stretched too far. It is true that drinking water is good for you, but you can actually drink too much, right? It is true that, getting my children to be compliant and obedient is good. I can stretch that truth way too far and become a tyrant and an awful father, right? It is generally true that having a sense of progression over a period of time is good. It promotes people coming back to the game and playing. That truth has been stretched too far. If that truth was contained in a 4-month schedule and progression lined up with 3 to 4 months instead of 6, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't. You would think, not a big deal. Now, I still think if we were in a 3 to 4 month Halo Battle Pass situation, okay? So Halo Infinite gameplay, you got 3 or 4 months to work your way through everything. I still think saying, hey, welcome to Tenrai, you can only get 10 items. I still think that's flawed from a philosophical standpoint. Why? Because if you play the first time and you got tons of time to play and you get your 10 items, and then the next time it rolls around, you're like, I can't play as much. So you get 5 items. You now have 15 items. You have now put the player in a position of their investment, their sunk cost into the game, it becomes their enemy. Because when the final Tenrai event rolled around, there was only supposed to be 3. It was supposed to be November, January, February. Okay, that's literally in the game's UI. I'm not making that up. That was the original plan. They get to the last one, and they're faced with an absolute conundrum. if I want to get everything, I gotta play a disproportionate amount of time to get the remaining 15 items. Now, that's only if the last Tenrai event, they remove the cap and they let you get more than 10. Do you understand? So you're faced with two potential problems when they get to the last Tenrai. They're either like, well, dadgummit, I could have gotten everything when it first showed up. I had more time off from work. You know, my kids were at school or whatever the case may be. Their life is not shaped around the dadgum game. So they get to the final week and they're like, well, now I'm faced with either I can't get everything because they keep the 10 item cap, which I think would be absolutely brain dead. I don't think they're going to do that, right? So I don't think they're going to do that. Well, now they're faced with, well, buddy, you better no life the game to get those final 15, 20 items or whatever, or you're not going to be able to get them. It's gone. Pff, out of here. They literally said they were going to minimize FOMO. That right there is not minimizing FOMO. What's the second stream topic? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 gameplay info leaks. And I spoke with Tom Henderson in a DM. He's like a super notable leaker, and we've kind of become internet pals. He liked my Star Wars Eclipse coverage. And so I reached out and was like, you know, what should I highlight? Is there anything really important here? Because he's blown the lid off on some pretty cool stuff coming to the next Call of Duty. Okay, Rex says, I do love the game. I'm still playing, but would be better with a long-term progression, all that wasted XP. See, this is something that is so interesting. This is something that's so interesting, Rex. What if, track with me here, what if they would have said, the Battle Pass is going to maintain its schedule structure, so it should last about 3 to 4 months, okay? And you'd have done it very fast. What if instead of worrying about stretching something really, really far, they would have said, how much capital can we get out of this? What if they complete the Battle Pass and reset it? Are there things we can give them? You know, who knows? Are there things we can give them? Are there, you know, what if, this is crazy to think about, what if the second time you worked your way through the Battle Pass, you got XP boosts and challenge swaps, and maybe they give you every once in a while some of the currency for their micro store. So you would have a vested interest in saying, well, I finished the Battle Pass, but, well, why not do it again? I'll get some XP boosts. It'll go quickly when I'm playing. I'll have even if it's an XP boost on a reset Battle Pass, it would give you the sense of like movement and, oh yeah, it's going, right? And you could get challenge swaps, because the challenge swap system isn't terrible. I think the challenge system is good. Consider what I'm saying. The challenge swap and the challenge system is fine if progression is pretty good, right? If you're progressing through the Battle Pass at a decent clip and you don't need the challenges, this would just be extra nice stuff. Like, yeah, if there's ever a challenge I don't feel like doing, I bagged a bunch of challenge swaps from my reset Battle Pass. Do you see? They got to think outside the box. They're thinking so unidimensionally about it. It's like, well, we got to get people to play over a course of 6 months, so what do? We'll just slow everything down. No! That's like the last thing you should choose. That's the last thing. You could have let people reset the Battle Pass. You could have literally come up with you could call it, people are saying prestige, right? We'll just use that term because everybody knows what that's referring to, like when you would prestige in Call of Duty. We'll call it a prestige Battle Pass. They could have just built an extra Battle Pass that was the same length, right? What is it, 100 levels? And it's just a bunch of random, just chintzy stuff. Who cares, right? Maybe it every 10 levels, it's like a lottery thing that spits out like a random trinket for your gun. Oh, that would drive away microtransactions. No, it wouldn't. The more you groom the player, that sounds weird, right? But the more you groom the player to consider all these customization items, the more likely they are to say, I want to go buy a customization item. So giving little trinkets here and there isn't going to hurt your microtransactions, even if it's just like the gun blings, right? How hard is it to create like emblems and stuff? How hard is that? That's what they should have done. Because if not, all you're left with is arbitrary structure that stretches the game and the player to a breaking point or a frustrating position where they feel like the game is telling me no. Jeff says it shouldn't be time gated. If you want to know life it, you can. If you want to take your time, all right. But they just need to show player engagement. And they just need to show player engagement in numbers. I think you left out a word. Did you intend to say they just need it to show player engagement in numbers? I think that's what you were attempting to say. Famous Frosty coming in with a brand new membership. We are inching our way to 500 members. If you click the dollar symbol at the bottom of chat or the join button, you can become a member. You get a badge, you get emotes. $5 a month. It supports me directly, and you get some cool stuff in the chat. You can take part in Halo Infinite custom games on Friday night. You can get increased access in our Discord. Correct. Okay, so that's what you were trying to say. Got it. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's motivated by we need logins. We need engagement numbers. Can you sustain it for 10 years? It seems impossible for their vision. Yeah. Well, here's something to consider. That's a good thought. Here's something to consider. It's only going to be like this for this time. Like, I'm willing to say, okay, all right, this stinks. A 6-month format, it's kind of stinky. It's corrupting everything that you try to improve. The analogy I gave earlier was you can change the oil in my car and fix the engine and do all this maintenance to it, but if it has a flat tire, the car is only going to run as good as the flat tire allows. And the 6-month structure they put themselves in, it's only allowing the improvements and things that they're doing. It's only allowing those improvements to have so much of an impact on the actual game's quality, right? It's hamstrung. It's like the game is like, well, yeah, we can have Tenrai, and yeah, we can make improvements to the event, but you still got to cap how many items they can get. Why? Well, it's got to last for the entire season. And so all their improvements to the event, they in my mind, they kind of land flat. Like, I enjoyed myself yesterday, but then I hit the wall. I hit the wall of like, now, you're out of challenges, or now, like, and knowing, I said this earlier, knowing that I can only get the first 10 items of the pass, the Halo Battle Pass, I'm sorry, the Halo Infinite Tenrai event pass, knowing that I can only get the first 10 items, that's pretty demoralizing, because the first 10 items aren't that great. I think the first 3 or 4 are super lame. So 40% of the items aren't even that exciting. It's like, well, okay. So you're making me slog through. So think of it this way. It's almost like, it would be like telling my kids for their birthday, right? All right, so for your birthday, we're going to spread the gifts out over the course of the entire month. And I give them like a pencil on the first day. And then the next day I give them an eraser. And then on the third day, I give them a piece of paper, okay? And I tell them, all you have to do is come in here, and you gotta do this assignment, and I'll give you your daily present or whatever. Well, what you're doing is you're making the event really unenjoyable. So what I'm doing is I'm coming to the Tenrai event, and I'm like, well, I guess I have to do this. If I want the really, really good samurai armor, I have to do this. I have to play and get these 10 kind of crap items. So my engagement with Tenrai is like, well, yeah, I got to get these 10 kind of dumpy items. Well, next time I'll get some better items. Well, that just isn't good design. So, like, think about it from this perspective. I don't think the items start getting good until about halfway through, okay? So that means your first 2 times you engage with this, you're only on the second time started to get some pretty good items. That's what who wants to do that? So, well, yeah, you must get these first 10, and that's as many as you can get. Well, that's not going to put me in a good mood or make me want to come back. Remove the non-event challenges in my way. That would make a big difference, Optimus. That would make a big difference. If I knew I could just come in and clock my way through 10 challenges and knock them all out and get the 10 items, that would make a significant difference. But again, we're arriving at the problem. The problem being, we need engagement. We need people to log in. So they're making a decision that's based on that and not based on what's good for the player. You just rant about everything. How about some gameplay? You're in the wrong channel if you want gameplay. This is a talk show. What gave you the impression you'd be getting gameplay? You're new in town. We played yesterday. I do gameplay on the channel. Not much, but we played yesterday to check it out. If you don't like what I'm doing, then it's really easy to leave. It's the press of one button. I'm sure you can manage that. You typed a whole sentence. Part of me wants to blame this on free-to-play, but then there are plenty of free-to-play games that get it right, so that can't be it. No. It would be a mistake to blame free-to-play. It would. They talked about this in the video, the one stream that they did. They talked about it. They said, listen, we knew that there would be challenges going from a traditional box game to free-to-play. We knew there would be challenges. And he said, listen, we want the battle pass and the systems and everything. We want them to be effective and rewarding. But we don't feel that we need to do stuff that is, he called them industry tropes, right? We don't need to do all the industry tropes in order for these things to be effective and in order for them to be rewarding. In general, the problem with that posture is you don't need to reinvent the wheel here, right? First and foremost, I hate to tell you, your Master Chief Battle Pass, everybody I talk to has nothing but good things to say about it. So you didn't really need to do industry tropes. You just needed to look at your own homework. Like, how did we do this last time? Oh, it's right here. It's right here. Here's how we did it. And then there you go. That's the problem. Because, like, when I heard him say it, I was like, okay, I can understand that. You don't want your game to look like just another free-to-play game, and the Halo Battle Pass is set up in such a way that Halo Infinite gameplay is indistinguishable from any other game. I don't think anybody would have said that because it's Halo, and Halo's gameplay is very unique, right? It's, well, very unique in that it's got its own identity, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's nobody would play this and say, well, this is just like every other game, If the Battle Pass had similarities to other industry tropes, I don't think that that's a problem. I don't. I'd be like, well, that's fine. These are becoming industry expectations of free-to-play games. D-Tom says, is this a case of protecting the player from itself just gone too far? Yeah, it is. It is. Did the Master Chief Collection always have the progression system it has now, like at launch? I don't know. I think they over time crafted it and received feedback from people. Master Chief at launch was a disaster. Yeah, it wasn't like that at launch. That's part of the thing that's crazy. So something similar happened when Destiny 1 came to an end and then Destiny 2 launched, right? There was all these, so they had all these updates that they had made to Destiny 1. The live team kind of took over and they had like Rise of Iron. And then Destiny 2 launched, and it was like, wait, where are all the great things you guys did at the end of Destiny 1? This is probably very similar to that, in that they had like a team, and they had like, feedback, and over the course of all this time, they implement all this stuff into the Master Chief Collection. Then you have to look at the reports coming out about the Halo Infinite sort of they were in, I think it was 2019, it was stated in the one Schreier article. In 2019, it was like they were in a shambles. They were in, I think it was described as crisis mode. Okay. And so Staten has to be brought in. They basically bring Joseph Staten in to like right the ship, basically, right? And when that happens, more than likely, there were way too many things set in motion, way too many foundational things that they were probably putting out fires. Well, actually, that's not what they were doing. If you look at that article, what they were doing is they were slicing the game up. They got rid of, I think, like what they say, like 2/3 of the map. The map was supposed to be this like giant Breath of the Wild size map, so they got rid of that. And I forget the other major thing that they did. You guys might have to help me if you read the article. In any case, if that's what they're doing, if you're bringing in Joseph Staten and you're saying, all right, we need help, we got to slice this game up, it stands to reason that every great thing they got from the Master Chief Collection, it wasn't really in orbit or on their radar. It was like, what are you guys doing to this thing? Like, this game is not even ready. What's happening? There was the ex-employee that talked about crunch a little bit, and then he said that the engine wasn't even done. We're 6 likes away from 200 likes. Thanks, guys, for a strong start. Fresh cut, bro. Thank you. So, like, I'm not making excuses. I'm trying to diagnose what happened, right? Like, trying to diagnose what happened. So what happened was they were basically having to get the game ready to just be launchable. So we have all these indicators that like they had massive management problems. They didn't know what they were going to do. They didn't know what they were doing with the game. And so they basically say, we're going to strip everything down to its base parts. That's what we're going to do, right? We're going to strip everything down to its base parts, and we're just going to get the game to be launchable. Like, that's all that matters. And when you do that, what ends up happening is all the pieces of the game, all the parts of the game are going to feel very, very conceptual, right? They're all conceptual. So you look at the armor core system and you look at the customization system. It feels very conceptual. It's like this hasn't been fleshed out. Or if it has been fleshed out, you guys haven't really thought through some of there's pros and there's cons, right? There's pros and there's cons. There's pros to having multiple armor cores because then you can really give yourself a couple of really cool, unique looks, and then you go to those cores or whatever. But then you look at the cons and you're like, well, the customization is sort of a nightmare. There's armor coatings I can only use on one core. There's items that I unlock that I can only use on one core. That seems a little strange. Why wouldn't you just let me mismatch? What is it called? An armor set. When you have like a set. And if you enable that set, then you can't individually interact with all the parts of the armor, right? So the game, when a game launches like this, it launches with it's all these pieces and parts that are in their conceptual phase. And the reason that I think the game can improve is because I think the concepts are decent foundational starting points. I think the base gameplay is good enough to last and to keep people coming back, right? So when you look at like the battle, like the Halo Battle Pass, it's just kind of like, well, okay, you guys built a battle pass, but it stretched too far. Why do you have all? Why is it based off of challenges instead of just base XP? Why would you not? Why would you not? Have the challenges be more generic, or have the challenges be offshoot and sort of optional, right? Well, the challenges are integral. Integral, right? Integral? Is that the word? Integral. Am I saying that right? Yeah, integral. I wanted to move the R. They're integral. It's like you're required to do them to level up. Instead of just being like, well, they're extra if you want to do them. I actually like the idea of, oh, hey, here's this cosmetic thing. There's a weekly cosmetic thing that you can get if you do all the weeklies. I actually think that's totally fine. And if that's generally all the challenges were for, little extra XP, but then that cosmetic item is like your main driver, I think that'd be great. I think that'd be wonderful. But it's like, no, you literally need these. So I believe, and I said this is a very, very similar dialogue approach that I took to Destiny 2 when it launched. It was like, it launched in so many systems were in their conceptual phases. It was like, this is just the base parts. There's nothing else attached to it. No depth, no substance, no purpose. It's just a concept slapped in a game. And I think the reason that this is the most accurate diagnosis of the game is because when that is your approach, you got to go back to the premise, right? Your approach is bring Joseph Staten in, get the ship back on track, and get the game launched. What are you going to do? You're going to strip the game down to its base parts. And I believe that action of like, here's the game, slice it down to its base parts. I believe when you do that, you deliver something with a ton of concepts in it. Well, they work, kind of. You know, the game works. It's not broken. Now, there were issues with Big Team Battle. I don't know if they've fixed those, like matchmaking or whatever. How many levels can I get towards the event in one day? Does anybody know? I think you could probably get all 10, but you'd have to continue to do other weeklies to free up space so that those events can slide up in the... Do you know what I'm saying? There's what you have to do is, and this is what I ran into yesterday, is there's only so many challenges that'll fit on the screen. What, like 4 if you've got the premium? And so what you have to do is you have to clear those out so that those challenges can slide up into place. And so what I ran into yesterday was, it was like, oh, I'm out of event challenges. Well, now I have to play oddball. Now I have to play oddball. What was the other one? I had to go into tactical. I had to play oddball, and I forget what the third one was. So I paid for the premium, and it unlocked the 4 slot. And the 4 slot was an event challenge. And I think it was get assists in Fiesta. And so I started working on that. But then I became really I guess unmotivated to do it. It was like, well, so after I'm done with this, I'll have gotten 4 or 5 items, and the only way I can get any more items is to clear out a bunch of other weekly challenges. I don't want to do that. I just wanted to boot up the game and play Tenrai Fiesta, and you'll never not have a Tenrai challenge on the screen. Once you're out of Tenrai challenges, those orange ones are done, and so are you. Once they are gone, you're done for the event. But that's not exactly right, though, Fliz. You'll never not have a Tenrai challenge on the screen. No, that's not true. Because it shows you the upcoming challenges, and if I would have finished that one event challenge, nothing. The next one that slides up in isn't a Tenrai challenge. You have to complete the other weeklies to make space for them to slide up. I mean, if I wouldn't have bought the premium pass, I was out of challenges after 2 or 3, I think. The challenges also isolate playing with my friends, requiring us to play different game modes. And when you're using a 2x XP, you want to make the best of it. Oh yeah, that was the other thing I had a challenge to go play free-for-all. I was like, what? I was like, all right, boys, let's play. I get 3 guys from the stream to come in, and we're running Fiesta, and we're having a good time. And then I run out of challenges. And well, now what am I supposed to do? Oddball, tactical, and free-for-all. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Free-for-all. I got to leave my buds behind. Or convince them, hey, let's play quick play until we get oddball. Let's play quick play until we get oddball. And then let's play quick play until we get oddball. Let's go into tactical, and then I gotta go play free for all by myself. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like I think that everything they're trying to do is directed in the right way. It is. I think they know what they need to do. I think they know what the players want. But you until you fix that flat tire, a lot of these changes are just for naught. They're not going to achieve anything. They're not going to achieve what you're hoping to achieve. And that flat tire is the fact that everything is structured around 6 months when it should be structured around about 3 to 4. The game-specific challenges from Quick Play are so annoying. They even said they'll fix it, and it's like still there, right? This Rampart Pikachu says, boo-hoo, complete the challenges or swap for something you can do in Fiesta. It's simple. Right. Again, Rampant Pikachu, your posture is to speak to me as if I answer to the game. Like, as if I'm in a relationship of subordinates with the game. Like, boo-hoo, complete the challenges or swap for something you can do in Fiesta. Well, I swapped, because you can only swap once. I swapped, and then the stuff I got was still stuff I couldn't do in Fiesta. And I don't want to do those things. I'm not subordinate to the game. The game is supposed to be subordinate to me. Like, you know what I mean? Your coffee bags are very good. Huh? I had to play Big Team last night, and it wouldn't even work with my friends on with me. Oh, is Big Team Battle having issues? You should be done in about a month and a half so players never feel burned out. You can go play other games and come back next season. That's a lot of what I've been trying to say is it's like there's nothing wrong with like people saying I got everything, and now I'm going to go play something else. That attitude works great if you're trying to lose your player base, right? The bags themselves. Zubair, you're not supposed to eat them. Yeah. Big Team Battle's been bugged all holidays. Yeah, we didn't have any problem with custom games the other night when we ran Big Team Battle. But apparently, yeah, matchmaking for Big Team Battle is just jacked. So, Fortnite does it best. I ordered a light roast bag for the fun of it. I miss my dark roast. I'm on the light roast, and my wife's on the dark roast. Because we've got bags that get kind of like messed up. And so we just drink those instead of shipping them to you guys. I wouldn't want like somebody to buy coffee and get like a bag that looks like garbage. Like, what the frick is this? So anybody here play Deep Rock Galactic? Evidently a fun co-op only FPS. It went up for free for PlayStation. Been looking for something to play with friends. Original Xbox only. I've heard nothing but good things about Deep Rock Galactic. Yeah, it kind of looks like I played it a long time ago. It kind of graphically looks like Borderlands and Minecraft had a baby. So it's good. A point of reference to somewhat counter your point, Lono. I completed all my weeklies in 5 hours last night. Yeah, but how is that a counter to my point? That's not a counter to my point. I didn't want to play for 5 hours. I was playing for 2 or 3. And even within that 2 or 3 hour period, I was faced with the choice of, well, you got to go do other things. You can't do the thing that you want to do right now. Distorted says, I'm on board with Asmongold's take on these and other terrible game design decisions. It's not just the corporate heads, it's just as much the devs' fault. They have to create certain avenues for profit. That is usually up to the devs to make that happen. And when they are forced to do these particular methods for monetization and player retainment that feel like a fight against the player's experience, it's because they, as devs, couldn't design something better. Or create systems so that they aren't forcing you into the crappy ones. Your take on this? Let me think on that. Prodamator with a brand new membership. Thank you so much, man. That's like 3 members today. 3 brand new members. Thank you very, very much. Enjoy your dope badge and emotes. You're dope and deserve dope stuff. Pushing us a little bit closer to 500 total members. Okay, so let me think on this. So basically what Asmongold's premise is that the developers are supposed to come up with systems that are that are good for monetization. And if the developers come up with systems that are broken or function poorly like this, it's on them. They failed to do like the minimum expectation, right? Okay, let me think on that. I think the general problem with the premise is it presumes that the developers have a vision that is shared or aligned with good monetization structure. A lot of the time, I think the devs and the dev teams they're siloed and they're put in charge of the task in front of them. I don't think, now obviously I'm speaking very generic here. There could be team leads or project leads that are like, we need this to work well with monetization, and then they just fail to come up with a good concept. Maybe. I continue to say most of this comes from a corporate level management problem. So if the corporate heads are prioritizing something, we need good monetization structure, for the battle pass, okay. And so then the project leads, or they take that and they run with it and they go to their teams and they give them direction with respect to that. Okay. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that the devs themselves are failing to do that. They may be being asked to do something that's ludicrous. Like, I'll give you an example in Halo. Come up with a way to make the battle pass last for 6 months. Well, what the frick? How are we supposed to do that? When we originally designed this, that wasn't the goal. The goal was, 3 or 4 months. What are you even talking about? Right? What are you even talking about? So they have to go back and like retroactively adjust things, shrink how much XP you get, or literally just take XP out of the equation, and they do it all based on challenges. Well, if we funnel them through challenges, that'll slow them down or whatever. I don't think all blame should ever fall all on corporate. It's a lazy argumentation. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's all on them. I'm saying that's kind of where it starts. If the corporate level decision making, if the management and the leadership is making really bad decisions, like take BioWare for example with Anthem, it's really, really hard to lay anything at the feet of the devs. Because you had terrible leadership, you had people not making decisions, you had, we're going to go with an engine that we probably shouldn't go with, but we'll get a bigger kickback, and we're being slightly pressured to use it. Like, they didn't have to use that engine, but they did, because they knew they'd make more money, right? All those decisions trickle down and have this massive effect on what the devs can do effectively. So it's really hard to look at a situation like Anthem and BioWare and be like, yeah, it's on the devs. It's like, no, we have an entire book written by a journalist that like, no, this was horrendous leadership and bad decision making. This particular conversation for Asmongold came from a crazy time gating and some new World of Warcraft content coming out. It kind of fits this subject. Yes, I would agree with that. Yes, the developers failed to bring a good system to market. The system itself is bad. It's like, this isn't a good system. Now, they might come back and say, we actually designed a perfectly good system, but the decision was made by somebody, not us, that this season had to last for 6 months. So we had to go back in and restructure everything and tinker with everything, and it really messed with our design concept. Because if I come to you and tell you, oh, I need this thing to be designed, it's going to be this is the scope, this is how long it needs to last, and you're like, okay, cool. That influences everything you do. And then I come back and say, oh, by the way, instead of it lasting for 3.5 to 4 months, it's going to last for 6 months. You're like, but that's not what we built. We didn't build it with that in mind. So there's shared blame all over the place. I think one of the challenges when discussing things like this is, number one, we have a base level amount of ignorance. Like, we don't work at the company, so we're basing this off of like interviews and people willing to speak to the press anonymously about stuff, right? So we're trying to like take some like spurious non-verified facts. They seem credible, but they're not, we can't verify them. And we're trying to put together a narrative of like, what on earth happened here, right? And I think a lot of the times gamers, well, maybe not gamers, everybody wants a scapegoat, right? If it's a real complex problem and there's all these different things going on, we want to just blame one person, right? These companies do this all the time, right? There's like mass corruption and all these things going on. They get found out. And what do? They try to find a scapegoat to fire. So everyone's like, oh, it was that person, right? It was them. I think in this scenario, I don't want it to sound like I'm saying, oh, it's all on the corporate heads. It's all on the management people. But I'm saying the source of these problems, when I try to diagnose like what happened with Halo Infinite, the source seems to be it's just really poorly managed. It's just a really poorly managed project. And that's why we have a bunch of concepts in the game. Like, it's not the guy's fault who built the battle pass that it has to last for 6 months. That problem is complex as frick. Like, what led to them being in crisis mode in 2019? What led to them not having the engine ready? What led to them having embarrassing gameplay in 2020 and having to delay the game for a year? What led to all those moments? Because all those moments led to them launching an incomplete game that doesn't have enough content, so they're having to stagger. And because they have to stagger, Heroes of Reach has to last for 6 months. So it affects Tenrai, it affects the battle pass, it affects the challenge system. All those things are affected. Well, whose fault is that? I don't know. This thing's been off the rails for a while. They're just now getting it back on the rails. You want to go back and like retroactively try and figure out who's to blame or who holds the most blame. I think it's all shared, but I think going back to the initiation, or the reason I go back to corporate level and management level stuff, the reason I go there is because in my mind, that influences the systemic problems more than the particulars, like the particular parts. It would be like going to a tree and being like, oh, there are apples on here that are rotting. What's going on? And being like, well, just get rid of all the rotting apples. That'll fix it. Maybe there's some kind of a sickness that's spreading like from apple to apple, so you get rid of all the sick apples. But if the truth of the matter is it starts in the ground and the roots and the core of the tree is diseased, you'd have to go there. You'd have to go to the core of the tree, the root system, and the diseased parts, and you get an arborist to come in and inject the tree with medicine or whatever the frick, and then that would go throughout the entire system of the tree, and it would fix that problem. So you could have the best developers in the world, you could have the best engineers in the world, best art team in the world. It doesn't matter if your management and your corporate level heads are stupid. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they're stupid, but I'm just saying in an extreme example, like create a crazy juxtaposition in your company. Hire the best developers and engineers and artists the money can buy and put morons in charge of the company. It wouldn't work. You'd be better off having average people in all those departments, right? Average designers and developers and average C-suite manager level employees, upper management and all that. If they were all average, that company would be 1,000 times more productive than a company with the best engineers and developers and idiots in charge. Yo, what's good, Atwood? I'm good. Here comes I Blame the Dutch Disney song. Lono loves this thing. 343 added voice chat in game. You don't need to be in party for the event. What? I don't understand what you're talking about. What are you responding to? I didn't say anything about needing to be in a party or voice chat. I'm not sure what you're responding to. Distorted says, but these companies got to get it together for this stuff. It never seems to improve. Look at World of Warcraft. The game is ancient and they're still implementing things like this crazy unnecessary time gating they know the players can't stand. Companies have to... It moved. Companies have to start looking for design choices that please both the company's needs and are palatable to the players, not just choices that only benefit their bottom line. I hate to see gaming slowly burn down into something it should never be. Well, I mean, we don't need to be too apocalyptic in our language. I don't think that gaming is like being burned down into something that it shouldn't be, but I do think that I just think live service is an animal that every company is trying to wrestle to the ground in different ways. It's just a giant animal. Like, the idea and the concept of a live service game is just, see Apple in the early 90s, the sales department ruining products. Right, yeah. You have good products and you have good engineers and good technical prowess, but your sales team is influencing the products, and then the products ended up being bad, No, that's fine, Distorted. Putting all your talking points in there, that's fine. If you get down to it at the root, corporate cares about money, obviously, but they don't tell the designers how to make the game. They give them stipulations, find a way to make profit from this, and then they leave them up to their crap, and then they'll generally leave them to their own designs and decisions unless things are received horribly. Right, and that's the thing, is it's like, you have to go back to leadership and C-suite, though, when a game is poorly managed. Like, for example, if I hire somebody to build a house for me, right? I hire a company to build a house for me, and I come to check on the progress of the house after, whatever, so many weeks or months or something, and it's clear that it's not coming together very well, right? It's like it's in disarray, stuff's not being done properly. Now, you could go to each individual flaw and try to find the person that did it, or try to find the cause, to be like, who did this? Who cut through this load-bearing wall? And who did the electrical wrong? And who did, you could go through and find all these things. But generally what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the foreman, and I'm going to say, what on earth is happening? You're in charge. You're the foreman, and then you got guys underneath you that are overseeing different parts of the job. What's going on here, right? He couldn't say, I don't know, I told him to build a house. And they are, poorly. You would say, well, you're not managing them well. Where's the oversight? Like, where's the repercussions? Where's the direction? Where's the vision? What's going on here? He's sitting there behind a desk. It's eye-opening when you start meeting people in the gaming industry, and they generally say how these suites are so hands-off, and the only time they really start giving you input is when the crap starts performing horribly. Right, so it's like, maybe I shouldn't be saying C-suite. Maybe I should just be saying the leadership and the management. Because your leadership and your management, the people casting the vision, the people, managing the teams, your team leads, your project managers, those are generally the people that you have to call to account when a game is mismanaged, right? And that does go back to the foreman. That does go back to C-suite level. Like, are you checking in with your team leads? Are you checking in with the, I don't even know who they would talk to. Are you checking in with, you're the CEO, right? Are you checking in with the individual team leads to make sure things are on pace? Or, how are things going? What's project deadline looking like, and all of that? And if you're as you're saying, if they're super hands off, maybe they share some of the blame. Maybe they should be more involved. Like, what are y'all doing? Like, who could have fixed Anthem? Well, Anthem could have been fixed really early by somebody coming in and being like, what are you doing? High-level, C-suite level employee being like, what's going on here? What are you working? Are you doing anything? Who's in charge? Who's in charge of this project? Because you got to have, your main game director, and then below your game director, you have all the different project heads, project leads, department heads, basically. Well, where's your game director? What the frick's going on with your game here, bro? Like, are we gonna be able to ship this thing? Like, I can tell you this, shareholders aren't walking around the design floor. I don't think I've ever said anything to give that impression that shareholders and board members are walking around, but it's a symbiotic relationship, right? I'm not even talking about shareholders or publishers now. I'm speaking within the company itself. You're not really managing the project or the company well if 2019 rolls around and the project is quote unquote in crisis mode. Like, why? What happened? You didn't have a fire, in the building that burned down a bunch of progress. Like, what's going on here? The reason I go to the corporate is because the entire premise of a battle pass is monetization. It's not good for the player. The best the company can hope for is palatable to the player base. The introduction of the battle pass has been one of the best things for casual PvP play in the last 5 years. Yeah, I don't think battle passes are the problem, like at all. Kevin Jordan was at an interview once, and at the end of the interview he said, you're the first person design I've interviewed who speaks about the player experience. Sometimes systems only become the focus. Right. We need a good system. We need a good system. Right. I think it's fair that a CEO expects that the people they leave in charge of studios are actually in charge of the studio. Sure, but you got to check in. So if I'm the foreman on this house project, right? Okay. And I got a team that I'm trusting to dig and lay the foundation. And then I have a team that's going to do all the framing. And then I have a team that's going to do the drywall. Okay. That's probably subcontracted out to other companies, right? I'm not going to go like this and then in 2 months be like, how's it going, guys? Like, no, I'm going to be checking in. I'll be there the day they dig and lay the foundation. How's it going? Okay. You guys run any problems? Any issues? Right? Did you hit any underground electrical, any underground plumbing? Are you having any problems with that? Okay. All right, cool. Excellent. What's your timeline looking like? I'm not just going to put on a blindfold and be like, well, hopefully it all works out. Yeah. You got to be somewhat hands-on. I'm not saying CEOs need to be walking around in the departments and checking in on things, but to me, when I look at this game, I'm like, somebody was asleep and just let this thing run into the ground, The CEO of EA does check-ins every quarter or biannually, I believe. That's the only reason Anthem ever even had flying. It was him playing the test build and saying how it needs this and it needs that. Well, and I think that's an indication that the only way... How do I want to phrase this? The only way you know a company is being mismanaged is if you're checking to see if they're being mismanaged. You know what I'm saying? The only way I know my kids are behaving themselves and not, drawing on the walls and strangling each other is I have to periodically check on them, right? And depending on the age of the child, you check at different intervals. So I think large projects like this, what it was, a $500 million budget for this game, okay? I would think maybe you should be checking in a little bit more often, right? Think about it like this. When you watch a season of 24, okay? You watch a season of 24, and they are in an absolute crisis mode. What do they usually say? I want updates on the hour. They'll make some statement like that. I want updates on the hour. Right? Why? Because the situation requires it. I need to be updating the president every hour. So I need updates from all of the department heads every 45 minutes. We need to know what's going on. Is the area being contained? Do we have leads on where the guy went? The guy that did the bad thing, right? So I need updates every 45 minutes, okay? And then I'll be on updates with the president every hour. Something to that effect. So there's an interval of check-in that goes up the worse the situation is, or the more dire the situation is. Because in 24, they were always dealing with attacks and things, very, very dangerous situations. Now, there's a spectrum here because you check in less often when there's established trust, or it's pretty basic, constructing a house. How often do I need to check in on the guys doing the drywall? I don't know. Once every other day, maybe. How often do you need to check on the guys doing the foundation? I don't know. You might want to be there the entire time. That's the most important part of the dadgum house, right? So the interval of check-in is in relation to, the seriousness or the severity of the project. I would think if you're the CEO and you got a $500 million game being built, I don't necessarily think you should be like putting on a blindfold and checking in once a year or however long, right? Now, EA is different because EA is the publisher. They're not necessarily the developer. BioWare clearly didn't have a game director that was paying attention and making decisions. Like, what's going on? Where is the vision? Where is the direction? So when I look at Halo Infinite, I think the same thing. I'm like, you just, somewhere along the line, you just had a total breakdown in leadership. You weren't checking in. You weren't monitoring what was happening. If teams are having problems, like, you need to know immediately because you might be able to allocate bandwidth. You might be able to, like, outsource or consult. Be like, what are we going to do? We're running into problems with the engine. Okay, is there anybody we can consult with? Or, you know, are there bandwidth things we can do? Can we allocate more people to your team? Like, whatever the case may be. So, all that to say this. My impression of Halo Infinite and 343 is that they are headed in the right direction, but they're really, really still just slowly getting the boat off the ground. Like, the project just totally ran aground. Picture a boat that just ran aground, just boom, just right into the shoreline, right? You got to get the boat repaired from the damages. You got to get the boat off the shoreline and turned, and then it slowly has to be set back out to sea. I feel like the boat's, you know, been turned, repaired, and they're setting it out to sea. It's just really, really slow. My question is, who do you hold accountable? Bonnie Ross, Phil Spencer, or Matt Booty? Who's the game director at 343 before 2019? That's who I would place most of the blame on. The game director. My understand, I mean, this is obviously a slightly ignorant understanding of hierarchy at the companies. You can't go at Phil Spencer. You can't go at somebody who's not at 343. 343 had a game director, and somewhere along the line, they mismanaged the project. They mismanaged the game to the point that the game was in a crisis mode. I don't even know what Joseph Staten's official title is. Did they bring him in and I think they brought him in and made him director, did they not? Probably the head devs. Microsoft is expecting a game at a time. They don't dictate the design. Yeah, I don't think Microsoft has anything to do with this. So I would need to know who is your game director before. So if Schreier's internal report is accurate and that they were in quote unquote crisis mode when 2019 rolled around, well, I would be like, well, who's your game director? What in the frick's going on? What do you think Halo would have looked like if it had launched without the Battle Pass, then implemented the Battle Pass a few months in when ready? Oh, I don't know. It would have been it would have felt like it was missing like a base level feature in the industry. One thing I've noticed is present in all companies is deadlines. No matter what, there's a deadline, and not delivering is the cardinal sin. Sure, I mean, they really wanted this game to come out in November 2020. They really wanted it. At some point, it's on Microsoft. 343 has had the franchise for how long? Since what was before 5? Whatever was before Halo 5, right? That was when they took over. Joe came in a year prior to launch, a little before the delay announcement. Bonnie has put out 12 Halos. 12? I got the impression that Joseph Staten is Microsoft's fix-it man. Oh, yeah, for sure. Halo 4 was the first 343 game, right? Yeah, it was. I think it was 4. It was whatever they got before 5, and then it wasn't that well received, and then 5 was really not well received. 2011, 343 was in charge of the Halo CE anniversary. Okay, so multiple people are saying 2011. So yeah, 11 years. Yeah, so a decade, yeah. Can we take a minute to recognize Schreier's work? The man takes a lot of heat from the industry, but he's necessary to the whole thing. A true journalist. I don't know if I would agree with the last part. he's refused to cover pretty significant things and has protected a pretty nasty person. So I don't think that highly of him, actually. I don't think that highly of him. I don't think highly of virtually. I don't think highly of anybody in gaming journalism. That's obviously a very personal reason, but I think they're all suspect for a variety of reasons. Not only the final deadline, says Takashi, every step in a pipeline has its own schedule. Missing a milestone affects the next group in the line. The thing is, when they notice things are bad, it might be already too late. Right. Folks at this media place are solid, though. Yeah, I mean, I don't pay much attention, but I don't know. We initially thought, oh wow, that's very brave and bold for IGN to report on what they reported on with Bungie, but then I have ex-employees telling me that their coverage was garbage. You know what I mean? It was basically fake. You know what I mean? Or very spun or whatever. They all have somebody that they answer to. Well, sure. I think folks follow the herd when it comes to games culture. It's pretty sad. Right, like, I was just pushing back on the true journalist aspect of it. I don't think any of them are true journalists. None of them. Because none of them reached out and attempted to get the full picture with what happened to me. Because they're all cowards. They're not journalists, they're media mouthpieces. Now, yeah, he does investigative stuff and he gets people to talk to him and all that's well and good, but make no mistake, that's good for ad revenue to break a story like that. To get a bunch of people from BioWare to talk to you about what on earth happened to Anthem, and a lot of them speak on the record but anonymously, that's great for ad dollars. Like that article did exceptionally well for him, right? And I actually think the BioWare article probably is what got him to get a better position, because he's at Bloomberg now, isn't he? IGN article was meant to set up the official response. Yeah. They knew it was going to get out eventually, so they did damage control. And I had an ex-employee say they didn't pressure us to sign non-disparaging agreements. They forced us to. And according to this ex-employee, Parsons is part of the problem, and he didn't come in to fix the problem. He's part of the problem. He's part of the culture. So, and this isn't some person that's just like blowing smoke. This is somebody that was there and has told me stories with details about things that went down and how things happened. The IGN article is nothing but PR spin. It's garbage. It is literally complicit. That article and that journal, that woman, she's complicit in protecting abusers and silencing victims just as much as Bungie is. So, I like, and on the subject of Schreier, it's just like, yeah, it's cool that you do these investigative pieces and stuff, but like you protected a bad dude and didn't adequately report on a significant thing that happened in the gaming industry. You just didn't talk about it. And anybody that talked about my situation did so in an incredibly slanted way and didn't give me a fair hearing. So like, gaming journalism is nothing more than marketing mouthpieces. They get pressers early and early access to stuff, and they write their little articles and they make their ad revenue. They're basically YouTubers that blog, and they get stuff early. Like, they're no different than it's no different than a YouTuber getting early access to a game. Why? Well, because it gets you money. It gets you money. They should have to disclose when they get early information, because it should make their reviews, I don't know. You should be more suspicious of a company that continues to get those early pressers and early releases, because that's money. They're being paid. Information is power. They're being paid with information. They just don't have to disclose it because they don't get a check. Like, if I get a free game or an early game and I preview it to you, I have to disclose that. If I'm paid money to cover a game, I have to disclose that. But like, gaming journalists can just sit here and be mouthpieces of marketing for all these developers, and they don't have to disclose any of that. They just get to break the news when it hits, and then they make a ton of money on the ad revenue. I think it's really complicated. I think it's really complicated when these gaming outlets also have YouTube channels. They do the same dadgum thing. They take the same content and they put it on YouTube. Well, there's laws about not disclosing that you're being paid to cover something, and I think you could make a very good philosophical business case that they are being paid with that information, and it should be disclosed, because then you wouldn't trust them as much. You know, this media outlet wants to stay in good with this developer, so do you honestly think they're going to cover misconduct in an accurate and honest way? No, they're not going to. Silly. So obviously I had everybody coming to me yesterday asking me about the one Bungie CM tweeting about accountability. I'm like, it's hilarious that you're tweeting about accountability as your company forced people to sign non-disparaging agreements and paid people to shut their mouths. Like that apparently that's accountability. You don't get to wax eloquent about accountability when your company has protected abusers and silenced victims, because that's not accountability. There's a conflict of interest at the very least. Yeah, there's a huge conflict of interest. Now think back with me, okay? The reason that this is a thing, so if you go all the way back to when having to disclose that you were paid money, do you remember there was at least 2 pretty big YouTubers that were paid money to make the Xbox One look good? Do you remember that? I forget who it was. It might have been Machinima and... God, what's his name? He was a Call of Duty guy. It's like one word name. It's not vertical, but it's something like that. He had like a one word name. Dang it. Anyway, they were paid to make videos making the Xbox One look really, really good. Okay? No, it wasn't T. Martin. No. Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. Is a Call of Duty guy, and he has like a single name. It's going to drive me absolutely batty. Anyway. So what they did is it became known that they were paid to make those videos. And they got in serious trouble. And YouTube started really, really cracking down and saying, if you're paid to make a video, it needs to be disclosed in the title, in the description. There's even like a box that you check, right? And syndicate, that's what it was. Thank you, Nano. I was like, it's some weird word. It's just like one word. It was syndicate, yeah. I am fairly certain that it was syndicate and maybe Machinima, and they both made videos about the Xbox One, and they did not disclose that they were paid money, right? Well, think about what that is. The issue with that is you covered a new piece of technology in a slanted way, and you were paid money, so obviously you made it look really, really good. How is that any different than a gaming journalist receiving information, covering it in a flattering way, and making money off of being one of the first people to talk about it? It's the same thing. The spirit of it is identical. Hey, we'll write you a check, cover this gaming system, and represent the information in a positive light. That's what all these gaming journalists do. They get information early, and that generates... They literally make money off the information, because can you imagine if I was given information about like New World early, and so the day their blog goes live, I have a video recorded, I have all the details, I've got nice screenshots that they provided me with, and I can do all that, put that video together, right? Make it look real, real good. Am I a journalist, or am I a marketing mouthpiece? I'm helping to market the new stuff, the new information. So that's why I think it just gets really, really muddy and messy in the gaming journalism field. Because think about it like this. Journalism, historically speaking, is about finding every piece of information that you can and putting the information together so the public can understand what happened. So a journalist isn't going to be like, hey guys, here's an article about the brand new, Happy Meals at McDonald's. Why? Well, that's like an advertisement. That's not a report. That's not a news report. Now, what they might report on is if children are choking on them, right? That's a public health issue. That's a public danger issue. So they would say, we're getting reports, so we've interviewed some of the families that were affected. We've reached out to McDonald's, and here's what their public relations liaison had to say. So what are they doing? They're gathering information to tell you about a thing that happened. They're reporting. Like, that's how it's supposed to work. And gaming journalism is it's like 80-20. It's 80%. We got a press release early from this company so that when the announcement was made, we are ready to basically also advertise the announcement and make money off of the announcement. And then the other 20% is like actually investigative. They reach out to devs or they get people to speak anonymously about, crunch or corruption or, why did this game launch so poorly? It's like 80-20. Gaming journalism is 80-20. It's 80% just like basic, they're just all marketing mouthpieces. A perfect example is yesterday. So Creature and I are looking for gaming news topics to cover, right? And every single outlet that we look to for gaming news, they all are talking about the exact same thing. What? Death Stranding Director's Cut coming to PC, right? Now, I don't know who got the information first. That would be an interesting thing to trace. Like, well, who got that information first? So they're all taking the announcement and they're basically just repackaging it and publishing an article. Now, in that instance, I don't know if they have all been given the information early. I don't know, because I don't know when they published the article. I don't know when the news broke, right? But 9 times out of 10, when there's something pretty big like that, what they do is so these news outlets and these journalists or whatever, they basically just have points of contact at all these companies, and those points of contact send out confidential announcements. I started getting them about Destiny. I got them in DMs from CJ Gibson. So I would get a DM and it would have in all caps like confidential release and then all this body of text. He didn't type that up to me. He's copying and pasting that and he's blasting it out to everybody so that everybody knows when a thing is happening or what is coming tomorrow or whatever, so that they can prepare videos, articles, and what have you. Now, I don't think that line gets blurry or messy when it's a content creator, because it's very clear I make money covering these games off of ad revenue and everything else, and if the developer wants to give me information early, that's great. I'm not coming to you and posturing as a journalist. I'm not posturing as like a news desk. Now, we're kind of doing that on our other channels, like this is an SNTR update, or the way that we're handling SNTR Presents right now. We are handling that as if we are sort of media, like news, like here we're going to cover this issue and try and give you both what happened as well as my opinion on it, right? That's where it gets messy for me, because the gaming news outlets are posturing as if they're journalists, and it's like, you're not a journalist, you're a gaming blogger, and you make money off of ad revenue, same way I do. And when you have a relationship with the developer that grants you early access to gameplay and or information, I believe that should be disclosed and classified as sponsored. Because it's essentially, you are being paid that information and you will not sully that relationship for sure. So all you have to do is look at how the Bungie situation was covered. Anybody who covered it with kids' gloves. Because I had people come to me and they're like, you're saying in this video that nobody covered it, and they named 2 people, a whopping 2, that covered it, and they covered it in a very positive way. Good for them. They're trying their best. You know what I mean? I see 272 F5. Oh, on the likes? Yeah, we are close to 300 likes. Thank you so much to everybody who has smashed the like button this morning. We have been talking about the Halo Infinite event update, what I think. They did good things. They made the event better, but we talked about the philosophy of design, and we got on a track and a train of thought about who do you blame in a company when things go poorly. And we started talking about, is it the C-suite employees, is it the managers, or is it whatever? And what we landed on was, obviously we landed on the Schreier article about Anthem and how mismanaged it was and how poorly managed it was. And then somebody said that Schreier is like a true journalist, and I said, no, he's not. No, he's not. Because he protected a bad person when all the 2020 Me Too stuff hit in the gaming industry. He sort of insulated and protected a guy, and a lot of other people have as well. And him and anybody else that covered that situation did an absolute abhorrent job. Just nothing but journalistic malpractice at every level. They're all despicable for how they covered that situation. They covered it like a bunch of cowards. So I don't have any respect for them at all. So nobody bravely went out and said, we're not going to report on this until we get all the facts. They just ran with it. Like Denzel says, it's not about what's true. It's about who says it first. Like, it's about saying it first. And they all applied that philosophy. So, yeah. To circle back to Halo Infinite gameplay will keep the game going. I do. I think it'll keep the game going. I think it is good enough and built well to the point that the game will continue and be totally fine. I think the road to Season 2 is going to continue to get really, really rocky. Really, really rocky. Because I think the longer we get in this season, I think the more annoyed people are going to get with the structure and how stretched it is. I think they're going to have to think through the Tenrai event. They're going to have to think through the very next one. I think they need to completely remove the limit. They need to completely remove the limit on how many you can earn. Season 2, hopefully these are all unlocks. Season 2 visors. Oh, they've been data mined. Halo Infinite Season 2 visors. There you go. They look pretty good. If you're new and haven't hit subscribe yet, I'm a Safe for Work broadcaster, and we do video game news talk shows like this Monday through Friday. I have a second one later this afternoon that we'll be doing. It will be about the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 leaks. We've got leaks about the new mode and details about the new game mode. I did reach out to Tom Henderson, the notable leaker, the guy that leaked this stuff. Just to get clarity on, was there anything he really thought I should make sure and hone in on and cover. So we did exchange some DMs about it. So we'll be covering that this afternoon. Do me a favor, if you haven't hit subscribe and the bell button yet, do that. If you're enjoying the show, it is free to hit subscribe. A lot of people treat me like video game radio because you can sub in confidence. I'll be in your sub feed all week doing a talk show that's safe for work. People just throw me on in the background. It gets me through their day. Smash the like button as well, and then consider supporting the stream directly. You can use the little $ underneath chat to send a tip, become a paying member. Members start at $5 a month. It gets you a badge and emotes. It supports me directly. You can order some coffee. We've got a coffee command. We have a displate command and a shirt command. The only difference about the coffee is this is actually ours. We're partnered with 80s Teas and Displate, so you're buying from them, and I obviously get a kickback, and you get a great discount on both those sites. But the coffee is ours, so my wife and kiddos ship this to you. It's like you're supporting like a small family-run business when you order the coffee. So give me a second. I've been drinking a ton of water this morning, and I gotta run. I'll be right back. Thanks so much for being here. Do all the things. Check out all the commands. I'll be right back. And Creature renewed his membership for 10 months and says, what's this thing do? Thank you very much. We've got our site set on a 500 membership goal. We hit 400 and we unlocked doing split screen, which is my kind of like my esports casting desk for Friday night Halo Infinite custom games. if you want to take part in custom games and things like that, you do need to be a member. So consider becoming a member and get us closer to that 500 member goal. We'll unlock another emote, too, when we get that high. So I think people want Lono Sip. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Somebody ordered coffee as well this morning before we started, and I got that label printed like pronto for you. The other person that ordered, I can't print it because it's too late in the day. But I did that before we went live, so. The coffee is the kind of sun. It's ionized gas as millions of degrees. What? What are you talking about? For the size, there's the kind of the number of people that even mentioned the article existed is shocking. For the size of the Destiny content creator community, the number of people that even mentioned the article existed is shocking. Oh, you mean like they didn't even talk about the article existing? Maddie with a $9 tip says, it seems to me like they focused heavily on getting the gameplay right, and I think they did. Things like events and battle passes can improve, but if your core gameplay is bad, that's harder to fix. That's essentially the point I made a little bit ago. I think the game will be fine, right? Because the core gameplay is so good. I've said very similar things about New World. I think New World is totally fine. Why? Because the gameplay just feels good. And if you can make the mundane and the tedious feel good, then people will keep coming back. I think that comes back to, though, with Halo Infinite, that gameplay only gets you so far with a PvP arena shooter, because you have to consider the repetitious meat grindy nature of the game. And I think something that helps with that is getting stuff. I'll give an example in a completely different game. So the game Fall Guys, where you're like the little bean and you're running and you're trying to get to the end, and everybody else is trying to get to the end as well. Okay. Well, my kids were playing it, and they were having a pretty hard time, because it looks like a game for kids, but it certainly isn't. My kids are 8 and 6. And when they were playing it, they were 5 and 7. So they're about a year younger. This is probably 8 months ago when they played. And so the initial, I think you can create. I can create right now for you like sort of a microcosm of what every gamer goes through, and my kids went through it. So they initially think it's adorable and funny and cute, and they're laughing. Anytime the bean gets hit or flung or whatever, they think it's funny. And so their initial interaction with the game is just pure enjoyment. That just the game itself, the mechanics, the colors, all of that. It's ha ha ha. Shortly after that, they have knowledge about the game's systems, and then they apply that knowledge. They apply that knowledge and try to win, okay? And when they start applying that knowledge and try to win, this is when enjoyment and frustration start to compete with each other, because you know that you can win. You know how to win, and you're trying to achieve that. And they start getting frustrated or not enjoying it as much. But there was something about ending a game and getting a little bar to fill, and they'd like dance, and they'd get their little coins, and they'd get close to an unlock. That, my daughter's a little bit older than my son, that clicked with her. She liked that. She was like, well, at least I get some stuff. So for a while, she'd be playing it in my office, because it was easier to set her up in my office chair, and my son and I would play like Star Wars Legos out in the other room. And that was something that kept her kind of going. It was like, well, I know how to win, and it's repetitious, and I'm not winning. I'm getting smacked around, but I'm getting things while I'm, just for playing. And I think that right there is like a microcosm of games that you experience. There's the initial, like, just enjoyment of the game. It's fun. You're laughing, hee hee, ha ha, blah blah, whatever. But then, once you learn the map, and once you learn weapon locations, and once you have some strategy, now you're applying the information that you have, and you're trying to win. So now, enjoyment and frustration are competing. And when that happens, there will be times where winning is all you really need to have fun, or, losing kind of drives you away. But there's this nice bedrock underneath all of that, where every time you end a game, whether you win or you lose, you're kind of getting something. You're seeing a little bar fill, you're seeing a number go up, maybe you're getting an unlock, maybe you're getting an item. That bedrock, I think, is extremely important, because it operates at so many levels. It operates at one level of giving the player a sense of loyalty to the game. They have earned a certain level. They have gotten to a certain place in the game. And it also serves as just a motivator to keep playing. I'm really close to the next thing. I really want the next thing. It hits people in multiple different ways. Like, the psychology of it is actually pretty brilliant, because it works at multiple levels. And that's why I think you can't just say, oh, well, the game is fun, or, we shouldn't need all these things, or, whatever. It's actually very, very important. I've only got to watch episode 1, Resident Recon, and as a Star Wars fan, I'm very, very pleased. My daughter started yelling when you mentioned Fall Guys. Yeah, I know. She wants me to play and cover Fall Guys. Like, that's all she cares about, which is adorable. So I need beefier rewards for my time invested. Right. And I mean, that's subjective to a certain degree. Fall Guys made me the angriest I've ever been playing a game. Infuriating, I would call that game. My biggest frustration is I always forget to grab the crown at the end. The most recent time I played it, I got all the way to the end, and I bounced off the crown. I forgot to press the button, So that's the thing that I always jack that up. I forget that you have to grab the crown. You can't just touch it. So you hit it with your head and fall. I was the first person to hit it, and if I would have just hit the trigger, I'd have been good to go. I'll be honest, one of the reasons I kept playing Halo Reach was because of how the progression system worked. Level up to unlock items, and then you had to earn in-game currency to unlock them. Yeah. I don't have time for all these shows and games, man. Golden ages aren't all peaches and cream. The way I think about it is this way, Zubair. I tucked shows away for like, oh, that's going to be special when we get to watch that. Like we've tucked away Lost in Space and Hawkeye. We're like, we'll get to that eventually, you know. The industry is very incestuous. Journos end up being staffed by game studios and publishers when they fade into irrelevancy. Oh, yeah, I think you're behind. I don't think, no, I don't think so. I don't think it's watching the live broadcast. There's a new episode. Should have hit today. Yeah. Should have hit today. The first one was a great opening, but a bit meh. I thought it was good. I thought it was exactly what it needed to be. People 100% forget part of the reason why they played so much Call of Duty and Halo back in the day is because of progression. Right. That's exactly right. Like, I remember my buddy giving me grief about, why don't you prestige in Call of Duty? And I was like, I don't want to. So I just had the 5 stars. It was like you were like a 5-star general or whatever at the end. And so I had the 5 stars. It was like, I think it was 4 and then 1 in the middle. And it was like 99 or whatever was above it, or 100, or I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was 50. And so it was like, he always gave me grief about it. And so I finally did it. I reset it. And it actually was, I thought it was going to be annoying, but there was something fun about slowly unlocking all the weapons again and slowly getting my kit back to where I wanted it. It was like, oh, you know what? This actually is fun. I didn't want to lose all my stuff, which is why I wouldn't prestige. And then eventually I did it and I liked it. I thought it was fun. Progression's part of the fun. People say is the reason you should be playing. Sort of a point where a game can't just be fun to play. Well, it's not no. I think of it this way, Doctor. What a great name too, Dr. Dinglenut. Think of it this way: you are perfectly well within your right to play a game just because it's fun. And if you were a developer, you're well within your right to design a game that's just fun to play, and it doesn't do any of these other things, okay? As far as the business strategy of capturing and keeping people playing over long periods of time and coming back week in, week out, month in, month out, I think you're going to find that the game won't do very well. It's not that it's wrong, it just doesn't seem like a very good idea in light of what games have come. That sounds like someone saying, oh, we're to a point where someone can't live without cell phones. The world has changed, expectations have changed. Right, it's like the argument about internet becoming utility, right? It's like internet is so woven into the fabric of our daily life, paying bills, running a business, watching TV, any of that. It's like, so internet can't just be like off for long periods of time. You disrupt people's lives when that happens. You know what I mean? So why do you play games then? Well, here's the thing. And this is what people that take your position always miss, Dr. Dinglenut. Here's what people that take your position always miss. Fun is subjective, and if you play a game for a particular reason, assuming that everyone else plays it for the exact same reason is silly. Is it not? So on the same token that you're like, I can't believe people are frustrated with the lack of like a good battle pass progression system. Why do they play that way? Okay. Well, they could turn and say the same thing to you. They could say, well, why do you play just to play? Just a day in, day out meat grinder? What, you just like playing that much? No stats, no record, no progression, no leveling, nothing. Just game after game after game after game after game after game. They could turn and say the same thing to you. They could say that your way of playing the game seems silly to them. The reality is you're both playing because you think it's fun, but your interpretation of fun is just different. There are people that think model trains are fun. I wouldn't be able to do it for more than about 5 minutes, right? I wouldn't be able to do it. Oh yeah, I saw the VR announcement for that Horizon game, Abe. Yeah. I thought it was gonna be like another trailer for Horizon, and then I saw that it was VR, and I was kind of like, I'm not really big on VR, so. I get people that play for the love of mastering the game. I have some of that, but when I'm unwinding, I want easy success. Yeah. I don't know. Fun is whatever someone enjoys about a game. There are players who strictly role play in big team battle custom matches. They care nothing about progressions besides cosmetics. I play basketball for fun. I'm too old to get better, and it makes my body hurt, but I still do it. I'm excited for the future of VR, but not in the current state. Yeah, I think VR has a long way to go. I think it's always going to struggle to be mainstream because VR it's always going to face challenges. The challenges of needing new equipment, the subjective challenge of people that just don't enjoy it, and being a smaller market share. The minute you have all those barriers in place, publishers are going to be way less likely to back a project or a big project because your projected sales are immediately smaller. So it's always going to struggle to be mainstream. I think it'll grow in popularity, and I think the sales are doing well, and I think people like it, but it will always face those challenges. You can't remove those as challenges. It's not possible. You need new equipment, and that costs money, and sometimes it's pretty pricey. The experience is subjective. Some people don't like it, and that creates a shrunken market share, which means publishers will be less likely to back big VR projects because the projected sales and the ROI on the project is significantly smaller than if they just launch the game as a normal game. That's why the Horizon thing, the VR thing, it's going to be a small offshoot game instead of like an entire game because they probably kept the project smaller because the number of sales will be significantly smaller. And so that's always going to be a huge challenge for VR. VR is relying on technological advancement. I mean, I will say this. I wouldn't be surprised if in 10 years, VR removes some of those barriers I just talked about by making the equipment less cumbersome, maybe more affordable, and then the subjective experience is more likely to be enjoyed. But we're so far away from VR being like, you got to just put this big old honking thing on your face. And people are like, no, I don't like that. I feel weird. I get vertigo. It's uncomfortable. Blah, 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 whatever. So, 10 levels of prestige, emblem and camo unlocked, so much progression in the OG Modern Warfare alone, even more in Modern Warfare 2, and that was 15 years ago. Yeah, that's why I don't understand why people act like progression and battle passes in games is some new weird foreign concept where they're like, why can't you just enjoy the game for enjoying the game? Our second show today is literally going to be about the leaks about the next game, the next Modern Warfare game. It's going to be called Modern Warfare 2, at least for now, and that's like the granddaddy of progression. That was one of the first games where that was like a huge thing to get all those cool unlocks. I remember moving emblems blew my mind in Modern Warfare 2. I was like, you can get an emblem that moves? It spins? I was like, oh, you need that. You make a $100 pair of glasses that runs off your phone and people will start to adopt? Yeah, that's probably 10 years away. It's 10 years away because it needs both technological advancement and then the parts and the pieces need to go down in price, so production is cheaper. It's going to take a long, long time. Leaks of a new Call of Duty, didn't one just come out? Yeah. These are good leaks too, Abe. Right from Tom Henderson himself. So I actually DM'd him and I was like, is there anything I should make sure and cover? Because he's the one that broke it. So he might tune in again. We ordinarily don't cover a lot of Call of Duty, but it's a very, very giant shooter, and it's pretty big gaming news that they've got a whole new game mode coming out, and the details are looking, I think, pretty cool. Not for me, but for fans of those types of games. Lono, Battle Pass is not progression of the game, that's the problem. It's monitored progression. When progression enhances gameplay, it's good. When progression is monetization, it grinds gameplay. But the Battle Pass is not monetization. It's unlocks to make your character look cooler. Are you gonna... I actually very, very strongly disagree with what you're saying. If I progress through that Battle Pass and look cooler and different as I go, there is an entire element of this game that is about what you look like. When the game starts, it shows everybody. It shows your nameplate. It shows your animation. It shows your armor. In the end, the winning team gets to stand and have all their armor shown off. I very strongly disagree with that. I think progressing through a Battle Pass and looking cooler, different, or more distinct is a form of progression, because you've been playing a lot if you have like the really cool stuff that you get at like level 92 or 93 or whatever. It is monetized. Well, the premium part's monetized, but it's not about it's not progression as way of monetization. It's if you want to buy the premium, you get all this super dope stuff. Fortnite does the same thing, but it's not juxtaposed against the idea of progression. You're progressing. You're getting cooler stuff. Like, I didn't mean to make it sound like it's not monetized at all. What I was saying is it's not progression as monetization. It's you can buy this thing and then you get all the way to the end of it and you've progressed. You've got cool stuff. You look dope. I think we'll need at least one more hardware generation of VR to really start seeing the capabilities. Yeah, probably. I miss why being monetized is bad. I feel like he's creating a false dichotomy. Like, progression is either genuine progression in a game, and if it's not, if it's a battle pass, well, then that's not progression. That's just monetization. I'm like, I don't think that's a false dichotomy. I don't think they're juxtaposed. I was buying battle passes in Fortnite, and I felt a sense of progression. The Halo Battle Pass is no different. I've got all these cool things. Like, I got to level 30-something yesterday because I bought the premium one and I spent all my XPs, like boosts or whatever, and I got like the 30-something, and then I had all these cool things to like make my character look different. Now, if I would have been getting those things along the way, I got them all at the same time because I spent the money, you know, after I'd been playing or whatever, and then I spent all the XP boosts or whatever. But if I would have been getting those things just while playing, it gives me a sense of achievement. It's like, oh, I'm getting stuff. The Battle Pass model is a monetized model. Modern Warfare progression was not the same progression. Not all progression is the same. Just because they're categorically different doesn't mean that it's not the same in spirit. You had to buy Modern Warfare for full price. You haven't spent a dime on Halo. So having the Battle Pass be, like, what is it? It's $10 or whatever it is? Like, until you buy 6 battle passes, you're not even on equal footing to what you spent to get Modern Warfare 2. You spent $60 to get that game, and you got a campaign, and then you got multiplayer, and it had all those unlockables baked into it. Well, Halo Infinite multiplayer doesn't cost anything. So until you've paid for 6 battle passes, you haven't even gotten to the same monetization structure level that Modern Warfare required. Battle passes are just regular play progression systems tied to something you have to buy to give you the opportunity to earn something. Yeah, but show me a battle pass that's not inherently cheap or attached to a free to play game. Like, where, you know what I mean? Where is the... What if I paid for the campaign? Well, I mean, yeah, you can pay for the campaign. That is true. If you don't have Game Pass, that is true. So that certainly is an aspect that's paid. But if we're comparing the progression systems, Halo Infinite Battle Pass progression has no money attached to it, and the Battle Pass does if you want the premium. There's free stuff to earn on the Battle Pass, and then there's the premium track, but you didn't have to spend any money to get into the game. Battle Passes are the biggest unrealized scam right now. Pay me and then work at earning rewards. What's next? Am I going to pay my job to let me work for them to earn money? Golly, just horrible argumentation. That is such a false equivalency. Battle passes are not a scam. How are they a scam? Come and play our game for $0. Okay, cool. And what, you feel like you're entitled to all of the rewards because you didn't spend any money? So, because you spent the money, you're entitled to get all the rewards right away. That's your logic. That if I buy a battle pass, I have to quote unquote work to earn the rewards. What do you mean work? You're playing a video game. They're giving you something for free. And then, if you want to garnish it and dress it up and make it cooler, you can, for money. You can be like, yeah, I'll pay that, and that'll be kind of fun. Every so many games, I'll get like a cool unlock that I can change my character. Like, what? How is that a scam? I don't agree with Battle Passes being a scam. The Halo Master Chief had a season Battle Pass in it. Yeah, I mean, people liked it. People liked the Master Chief Collection Battle Pass. They thought it was good. Let's see. 30. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to get ready to. What would it take to get us to that, though? Half an hour, 37 and 15 would put us at what time? It'd be 8 minutes shy of an hour. Yeah, that won't work. That won't work. We'll have to do it at the half mark. You know what a scam was? Rewind 5 years where every game had loot boxes. Yeah, loot boxes you could probably argue were a scam. I don't know if you can claim that, that battle passes are a scam. I think people grossly overstate like how bad monetization is. And they're grossly overstating it when they use free games as their example. Like, you're not making a very good case, like, at all. You'd have to find a full-priced game that's got a very chintzy, overpriced battle pass in it to, like, make your case. It's like, even if you try to go to Destiny and you're like, well, Destiny is a full-priced game with a battle pass. I'd be like, yeah, so, like, that doesn't affect... That doesn't affect that doesn't affect it. Like, should we put ourselves in Modern Warfare 2 or Warzone for this next stream? I guess we could put ourselves in Modern Warfare 2, but everybody's probably playing Warzone. I'll put us in Warzone. Gaming news, playlist, this, and this. Getting the next stream ready for you guys. Okay. Something on my mouse is putting the number 3 everywhere. What is happening? Just random number 3s. I must have something bound to one of the buttons or something. Either Warzone or Vanguard. Yeah, I put us in Warzone. I think Warzone's probably the better one. I mean, nobody's looking at Modern Warfare 2 right now, and this isn't really Modern Warfare 2. It's Modern Warfare 2 in name only. It's a placeholder name. I don't even know if they're going to call it that. I think that'd be kind of weird to call it Modern Warfare 2. That'd be super. To me, that's confusing. Personally, I think that's confusing. Okay. All right, we got that scheduled. There aren't loot boxes in Destiny? No, not anymore. There were when Destiny 2 first came out. A scam is deceiving people. If people buy it knowingly, it's not a scam, really. Loot boxes in Destiny, Halo 5 and Halo 5 and Splitgate aren't bad. Having a loot box as a random drop after games is okay. Yeah, like a loot box at the end of a game is okay, as long as if you're not selling them. I don't care about that. A battle pass has its strengths and weaknesses, says Brutal, but no one can deny that cosmetic unlocks for amazing feats in games was way better than the monetization structures of today. I don't think they need to be mutually exclusive, though, Brutal. I think that's one of the biggest flaws right now in Halo's ranking system. You should be able to go into the ranked playlist and get super dope unlocks in Halo Infinite. Like, Halo Infinite gameplay is dope, but I'm not going into a ranked playlist unless I've got a really good reason. You got to put some really amazing cosmetics in there. You do get unlocks, like for your character, to make your guy look cooler. You still get engrams in Destiny. The engrams are loot boxes. Oh my gosh. Stop. That's enough. That's enough. The expression of RNG in a loot drop that makes you go to the tower with an engram is not a loot box. Just stop it. That's ridiculous. Oh, they've got emblems. That's not good enough, Paul, and you know it. That's good. That's a decent start. I'm checking out for the day after that one. Yeah, you gotta put that one down. That is a terrible argumentation point. Not the legendary engram, I mean the cosmetic engram, whatever it's called. Oh, like the bright engrams? But it's not a loot. Well, okay, here's the problem with calling it a loot box, Justin. I will grant you that they have cosmetic boxes that open and you get a random cosmetic, but they're free. You can't buy them. You can't buy them. You cannot buy. So that's the problem with calling it a loot box. You're using a gamer colloquialism in a really, you're not being dishonest on purpose like you're being deceptive, but like it's super disingenuous to take the word loot box and apply it to the bright engrams because they're free. You don't pay for them. Even if you don't buy the battle pass, they're on the free track of the battle pass. Like there's no way to buy them. There is no way to be like, I really want to get this awesome sparrow, and you go and buy a bright engram hoping to get one. It's not a thing. And the bright engrams have RNG protection in them. They're way more likely to give you something that you don't have. One of my least favorite things is when I have to defend that game. Yeah, it's not a loot box. You have to be. That's why you have to be so clear with things like this. That was my argument from before. Those styles are okay. It's the same system as what Splitgate has. You earn a random box, but you cannot buy them. Yeah, it's probably just best for the sake of clarity to not call it a loot box then, because like traditionally speaking, loot boxes are a highly controversial subject. Like literal laws have been passed about them. So you can't, if you call it a loot box, you're just confusing. The best way to have clear communication is to have agreed upon terms. And when you start using a term like that in a I would say in an inappropriate way, it's like, well, that's not really the appropriate landscape to call something a loot box. That's why everybody got confused and they were like, that's not a loot box. Do you understand? It's not that you were not saying something disparaging about the game. You were saying this is a totally fine way to do it. It's just that when you use the term loot box, everyone's immediately thinking of a box that you buy that spits out a random item. To be fair, they added some pretty good cosmetics in the campaign. I spent a day going around the open world unlocking them all. Yeah, I've heard that they put some of those in there. You can go unlock them. You have to be online in order to get them though. If you put cool unlocks in ranked, what about the group of unhappy players saying you're forcing them to play ranked? They can shut the frick up. I'm serious. If you put an awesome armor set that you earn in the ranked playlist, and people are like crying about that because, oh, you're forcing me to play ranked, shut up. Like literally shut up. No one wants to hear from you. It's a free-to-play game. You're owed nothing. And if you want something really cool and the game devs put it in a hard area, sorry. This really challenging world boss drops an amazing lightning hammer. You're making me go fight a really hard boss. Shut up. Who are you? I don't think that those people are ever even remotely close to a majority. I think it's an insult to call them a minority. I think they're fringe. They are literal fringe. There's no gamer with a functioning brain typing that up in great quantities. No. We put this awesome armor set in the ranked playlist, and if somebody started whining about that, I'd be like, what's the problem? You know what I mean? Does removing the cost from a true loot box remove the loot box title? You have to understand something, Kaganeko. In the sphere of language and communication, when a colloquialism develops, you kind of have to abide by the rules of the colloquialism. This is why I hammered Bungie for claiming they had anti-cheat, because it was misleading, right? Gamers don't refer to anti-cheat and mean we have a system in the background that monitors behavior and uses reports and actual reviews of player conduct and behavior, and then we initiate bans by way of a human person. That's not anti-cheat, right? So saying you have anti-cheat is confusing. The general rules and definition that we would apply to the gamer colloquialism of loot box is a purchased box that spits out a random item. So if you use loot box and you're referring to something else, you're going to just cause confusion. I'm not telling you what you can and can't say, but if you're going to communicate with people, I would think a base level aim that you would have would be that you want to be understood. You know, if I sat here and said, my favorite games, oh man, board games are so fun. I love when I get to get out my controller and boot up a board game on my computer. And people are like, wait, what do you mean? Like a digital board game? No, I mean like an RPG where I run around and like Diablo. I started calling isometric games board games. It would just be confusing. People would be like, that's not what we call that. Well, I mean, traditionally speaking, if you look at the history of RPGs and role-playing games and Dungeons and Dragons, I'm perfectly within my right to call this a board game, because in essence and in its parts, it's essentially a board game. I'd be like, shut it, what? No. The reason I ask is you used to be able to buy bright engrams. Yeah, they got rid of all that. That's why they got rid of all that. Yeah. One of the reasons I very ardently and regularly defended the Eververse store in Destiny was because I believe they did everything that you want to see from a cosmetic store. They did exactly everything that you want. They got rid of RNG. They gave you direct purchase options. They made it a lot clearer. They cleaned it up. 80% is earnable with an in-game currency. They let you know what's not earnable before an event happens or before a season happens. It is literally one of the best cosmetic stores in existence. It's the archetype, like it's archetypal or whatever the word is. Like people should be modeling their microtransaction and cosmetic stores after Destiny. I'm being dead serious. I've been mercilessly attacked by that company and unjustly banned from the friggin' game. But I'll defend that microtransaction store because I think it's archetypal and good for the industry. To have a very, very good, well-built, respectful microtransaction store. I think that's good for the industry. It's good for the devs. It's good for the players. It's good for revenue streams. That's why I defend it. I don't defend it. Why would I even bother defending it now? I can't even play the dadgum game. I still think it's the archetypal microtransaction store in existence. I don't think it's archetypical. I think it's archetypal. Isn't it archetypal? Archetypal. Yeah, it's archetypal. Yeah. I grabbed that from Jordan Peterson because I've said archetype before. It's the archetype, but he says archetypal in some of his speeches that I've been listening to. Yeah. So I think that that's why saying something's a loot box when it's not a loot box, I'm like, don't even do that. That's confusing. I'm right, I guarantee. Archetypical could be a different word though. Archetypal in the way that I'm using it is no. When I type archetypical, it spit out archetypal. It says, "Did you mean?" I literally type what you typed, Takashi. I said archetypal. It said, "Did you mean archetypal?" Archetypical is not a word. Or it could be a version of archetypal that people are saying incorrectly. It means the same as archetypal. They might be interchangeable. I can't find out if it's an actual word or not. It seems like it's like an accepted version of the word, but it's not the actual appropriate word. Headline: SNTR reports Bungie is in the right, trending on Twitter within the hour. I've never archetypal. He says archetypal. Yeah, that's the word that Sid found. And when I searched for archetypical, it sent me it literally sent me to archetypal. Hang on, let me reopen my closed tab. Let's get the pronunciation here.
Archetypal.
Archetypal. So he says it incorrectly. He's Canadian, so we'll give him a pass. It's archetypal. Yeah. That's easier to remember anyway, because, like, I say archetype. There was a band I used to listen to called Becoming the Archetype. Insomniac with a $5 tip. Personally, I love my VR headset, but the biggest issue I see is nobody has the space to truly enjoy it. Yeah. That's another issue. Yes. Archetypical is not in the Oxford Dictionary. Yeah. Archetypal. Yeah. I picked that up from him because I've been listening to his biblical series. It's friggin' it's just dadgum mind-blowing. So good. I got an Audible subscription for Christmas and a bunch of gift cards to, like, pay for it for, like, I don't even know how long, a couple of years probably. And I grabbed the 12 rules or whatever book. I'm gonna listen to that when I'm done with this series. Cutting him slack for being a Canadian. Not very Canadian of you. Watch out what you say about Canadians, or you're gonna catch these hands. Hey, what's good, Quad? He's great. Yeah. I've benefited greatly from listening to him recently. Becoming the Archetype's awesome. Yeah, I saw them live a couple of times. They were pretty heavy. They were cool. They were very cool. I thought all their artwork was just insanely awesome. Whoever did their album art was just stellar, which is absolutely stellar. What are you gonna do? Apologize us to death? She'll drown you in maple syrup. Watch out. She'll slap you with a piece of Canadian bacon. It's just ham. It's just real thick ham. Just right across the face. He helped bring me home? Really? Interesting, Quad. I've been home for a while, but I've enjoyed him. Lono has a weird high concentration of Canadian fans, myself included. You know what's that? Creature and I noticed this the other day. No, I have not, Harry. I'm dying, brother. It's been tough to not be able to. Creature and I we're kind of observing this the other day. We have a ridiculously diverse group of people here. Do you know what I mean? It's usually really typical for a guy like me to have a following, and my following looks like me. Like a lot of just straight white men, right? And I know that is a majority of the men here. That is a majority of the audience. But I've slowly started to notice it's not as stark as in some other communities. We have all sorts of people here across all spectrums. Across spectrums of the world, across spectrums of like belief, race, LGBTQ members are here. It's the weirdest thing because, you know, it's funny. We don't focus on it. Do you know what I'm saying? We don't focus on it. We don't like try to be. It's funny if you're just like really accepting and nice and kind, like diversity sort of happens, you know? It's almost like when you focus on it too much, it doesn't happen. Do you think that's true? I feel like that's true. I'm blacker than the Ace of Spades. I figured with the name African Jedi. I was assuming, you know. I had a friend, and he was Kenyan, and boy, oh boy, he was so funny and just massive. This big, huge guy. He was really irritating because he went to the gym and he's got these. I think he had 35s or 45s, and he's just going like this, He's like, yeah, the doctor says I have to lift weights. I'm like, is this like your first time? He's like, yeah. I'm like, get out of here. Just insanely strong, and he's never lifted weights before. Just these giant guns. It's like, you son of a gun. I'll never have arms that big no matter how long I come here. He was a really nice guy, but he was a monster. Just an absolute beast. He could have probably got into like kickboxing or boxing. He just had the build for it. He was fast and strong. Lono is nice until you tell him to jump on a ghost girl's head. Shut up, Omar. If you're interested, I have to recommend the H.P. Lovecraft stories on Audible. They tell Lovecraft stories like old radio dramas. The production's amazing. I appreciate the recommendation. I am far more interested in like intellectual books. I don't have time. If I did listen to some fiction, I would finish The Wheel of Time. I stalled out in like book number 11. It's true, when you don't overly focus on it, you aren't being divisive and people gravitate toward you. We're like a healthy pack of dogs. We self-regulate. If you get out of line, we'll nip you until you get in line. Yeah. Lono's nice until you're a goose. Our genetics bless us in multiple ways. What ways are those, Abe? It's just interesting to me. We were just talking about it the other day, and I was like, because we obviously are, I want to be, what's the word? I want to be cognizant of the members of the community here that might be, upset, offended, or feel a certain way if a certain joke, idea, or if we allow types of behavior or things to be said. I'm not like creating a safe space, but I'm like, I don't want somebody to feel like, ooh, I might not be welcome here. Wow, did they joke like that? You know what I mean? So I'm like cognizant of the diversity, and the more cognizant I became of it, I was like, this is a super diverse group of people, compared to a more traditional, I think it's fair to say it. I think a lot of the guys that look like me that stream, their communities are very much not that. But I don't know. I feel like gaming is a pretty good equalizer. Thank you, Lono. Very gracious of you. I'm just here for Geralt. Yeah. I don't even think about it. I don't know. Imagine introduce yourself in your Twitter bio like, I'm Shane. I'm just a person, man. Take it or leave it. Yeah, Mantis. Yeah, that's like a whole thing now. I don't know. Their Twitter bio is like, how much virtue can I jam in here? I understand that lots of people mean well. I do. I don't want to call everything under the sun woke or virtue signaling. But sometimes I'm like, my goodness, that just doesn't seem genuine. It seems extremely mechanically driven. Like, I want everybody to know. Like, I don't know. I think it spawns from a good balance of having respectful disagreements. It's rare today to completely disagree with someone on a topic and neither side think the other is evil. Yeah. Oh, I wonder if that's really interesting, Brutal. Is it a subversive thing? It's because I'm not saying everybody's welcome here. I'm not saying that. But when you see put on display healthy disagreement, you're like, oh wow, this place isn't like toxically tribal. I'm not going to be bludgeoned for being different. I think you're right. I think that's an excellent diagnosis of why we have a very diverse group of people here. I think it in a subversive, unspoken, almost subconscious way. It's like, yeah, I feel pretty safe and welcome here because these guys are going at it hammer and tongs and they're friends. I mean, I'm not going to be run out on a rail for being different. Acceptance is in the air because they're disagreeing and they still accept each other. That's actually a really good observation from somebody who has regular disagreements with me. Yeah. Who do you all talk to that thinks you're evil? Well, they don't. They probably just get blocked. They probably just get blocked. You know, there's no conversation to be had. You know, you think that? You voted for so-and-so? Block. I'm saying we here have come back several times, even after very spicy discussions, and those haven't always been limited games. Yeah. I like being here because I can disagree and not get my head chopped off. Yeah. I feel like the tone of our disagreements have gotten better too because I've watched a lot of content recently of people being, you know, you see these clips and they're like, so and so owns a college student or whatever, and I don't like that kind of content. But so I watch it and I'm like, okay, how can I do what they did but not sound like that, right? It's fine to take someone's argument, like, all right, let me take the argument, let me break it apart. Here you go. I just busted it. It's in shambles. And they're like, oh gosh, yeah, my argument's not very good. And then they're more focused on the topic and the subject and the strength of their argument. They don't feel like I picked them up and wailed on them in front of the audience. It's like, no, let me take your argument, let me break it apart. Premise, supporting clause, premise, argumentation, logic, reason, like what's here? Okay, yeah, it's a bad argument. And I give it back to you. We've had some full-on arguments on stream, but I came back because I know your wife loves me. Whatever. She likes lost dogs, you know? It's like you and Wheezy. I don't know why. Wheezy literally threatens to tell on me. He's like, oh, get your wife. Oh, get your wife. I hate everyone equally, so it evens out. Purple Lono was chopping heads off. Yeah, I was different. I went through a process even streaming over there where I was getting a little bit better. I would say the way I argue now in debate is worlds different. It's not even the same personality. Well, that's not the right way to say it. It's the same personality, but it's channeled and directed at the right things. Because I get really passionate, and there were times where I would direct it at the person instead of the argument. So it's like I've raised it up a little bit. Like if it's like a cannon, I've raised its target up a little bit so it hits above you and not at you. So you're like, oh, he's hitting my argument, he's not hitting me. I don't know. I appreciate that you realize it's important to keep things civil and respectful. So many people who disagree with you nowadays automatically jump to being disrespectful. Yeah. And I you know what's funny? It's because I don't want to beat you up and have your kids hate me. I'm trying to be a better man post-military and less violent. Oh, okay. I'll know there's a two-way street of trust. You trust Chad, at least some of us, and we trust you to present our texted arguments in a fair manner. You still chop heads off properly. In the right cases, yeah, I think I still do it. He's still lobbing heads off. The blade is just sharper, so you don't feel the sting until later. I also think the difference is the content here is heavily based on general debate rather than Purple Ono content being heavily based on Destiny debates. Yes. Because it was like, oh, we have to have this argument for the umpteenth time this week, and I got sick of it. Yeah, I think that's a good point. What Destiny raid was it where we had a falling out at the final boss? I can't remember. You and I had a falling out, Harry? Was that where... Were you playing with us when that happened? Wasn't it the crown guy? Where we had two guys that just weren't listening. It was so frustrating. I don't remember having a falling out with you in a raid, Harry. I don't think so. He doesn't chop off heads unless you're Omar. Some ask and deserve the ask, right? If Lono is raging in Dark Souls sessions, heads will roll. I've even got better about that, though. I've gotten better about that. I let people know. I'm like, you gotta stop, man. I noticed this the other day, too. So I've had some people commenting on a video about Jake Lucky. And they're being nasty, you know? They're just being nasty. And I noticed that, like, if you just kind of talk to them in just, like, a general sort of way, instead of, like, attacking back or getting defensive... It makes it so hard for them to, like, how are they going to clap back, right? The one guy, I told him, I was like, you're just being unkind. I was like, plenty of people like the guy. You know, you don't have to. And that was all I said. And it's like so disarming. It's like, yeah, I am being unkind. Like, what's the guy going to say? Like, I'm not being unkind. Like, yeah, you are. You're being mean. You're name calling. Only thing I remember was that you said, whose raid do you think this is? And I replied with, I thought we were all equals. And you did not like that response. What raid was that? What raid was that? Was that, I remember that. Because it wasn't, I wasn't mad at you, but you poked the bear because I was ticked. Somebody was just being so stupid. It was so frustrating. And they were trying to I was like, whose raid do you think this is? And then Harry's like, oh, I thought we were all equals. It's like that, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we're not equals. I'm saying you have to have a leader, and I'm clearly the leader. I'm the streamer. Like, that's just kind of the power hierarchy. You have to accept that. I think it was Riven, Harry. It was Riven. It was Riven, and we weren't running it. It wasn't even the first time. We were running it we were running it another time or something. And somebody was just mouthing and not doing what they needed to do. And I was like, dude, whose raid do you think this is? Like, I was, trying to pull a Rorschach. It's like, buddy, I'm not in here with you. You're in here with me. Like, this is my world. You got to kind of do what I want. Because we ran into that a lot with last Wrath of the Machine. We would run into that with Wrath of the Machine. My ringers would run speed run tactics because they would hang out with Slayer. They would all hang out with Slayer, and then they'd come and try and run with me, and they would do all this speed running stuff, and they would mess it up and die. And I'd get so frustrated. I'm like, look, you're just trying to show off to the audience. I'm trying to get a completion for a raffle winner. I'm not trying to do some sword skate strategy where you smack into a wall and die. So I had to get preachy sometimes. I'm like, bro, you're helping me. Like, you got to please do things the way I would like them to be done. I think we had some new players, so I was doing solo strats and just letting them do nothing, and it failed 2 times in a row after a rough run, and you got annoyed. Yeah, that was always the most frustrating thing, is I would break things down in a Destiny raid, and I would say, this is the most least likely to fail strat, right? So I would strip away all the speed running, all the risk. I would minimize every angle of risk because, sure, the run takes 45 minutes instead of 36, but it's just a locked-in 45 minutes. 45. Like, because you just minimize risk. You want to do it in 36 minutes and you do a speed run strat and you fail. Guess what? We ain't hitting 36 minutes now, so what's the point? And oh boy, we would get people would disagree with me on that all the time. I was like, I'm just trying to minimize risk. I'm not trying to show off. I can sit here and calmly talk to chat while running a raid because we're just minimizing risk. We're all standing in our appropriate positions. We're not getting shot. Like, we all have like our place. And boy, oh boy, man, the ringers would Kinga was the greatest offender. He was a nice guy. I liked Kinga. But he was the greatest offender because he would try to do the strat and he would mess it up. And I'm like, can you just do this thing that's safe? Can you just do the thing that's safe, please? Oh man. I always felt too much pressure. That was most of the problem. I just put too much pressure on myself. I wanted things to run smoothly and efficiently because it was a service stream, and like that was all that mattered. That was all that mattered. And anything that was going to be an encumbrance on that, I would get really angry about. It was like, just don't do it. Fun fact, just don't mess up. When we were running Crown of Sorrow, I was extremely annoyed. These guys died like 13 times in a row, And it was clear. It's like, you guys are doing something wrong. You got to stand in a different place. You got to do something different. And they wouldn't. They just wouldn't. They're like, no, we think this is going to work. We're going to stand up here or do whatever it is that they were doing. And I was trying to explain to them with just like basic movement and physics. I was like, you're standing up on something. So if you get aggroed and they shoot at you, you can't quickly get into cover. You have to jump down, and that's slowing down your ability to recover. And they wouldn't listen. And so finally I just got annoyed. I was like, you guys can't do this. You can't sit here and refuse to adjust your strategy when you fail this much. And then I died like one time, and they tried to get like smarmy, like, well, why'd you die if your strat's so good or whatever? And it was like, okay, I just died once and you died like 13 times. You really want to keep score here? And from that point on, it was a loss. It was a lost cause. Crown day one was rough. We had people just insta-die every run for like 3 hours straight. I remember that. Yeah, they would just die like right away. It was like, what are you doing? Like, how are you dying so quickly? It was a little unfair because I had on what's the thing? What's the dodge? There was a helmet. There was a helmet, and the hunter could dodge and like immediately start healing. Husk of the. No, not Husk of the Pit. Crown of the Husk. I forget. I've not played the game in such a dadgum long time. We're coming up on a whole year in February. It'll be a whole year since I've touched the game. Worm Husk, thank you. I had that, and so my survivability was ridiculous. I was like, oh no, I'm getting hit. Dodge. I'm fine. If you appropriately use Worm Husk and you have a really good build, you literally can't die. You just can't. It's like, I'm getting hurt. Dodge. I'm fine. Back to the action. So I had on Worm Husk, and so it was like, listen, I know my survivability is a little bit unfair comparison here, but dadgummit, you got to come up with something to stay alive. You got to do something over there, brother. I remember day one Riven, I was wearing One-Eyed Mask, and people were like making fun of me for wearing One-Eyed Mask in PvE, and then they saw how many times it saved my life in the final rooms. It was saving me the whole time. It was saving me a bunch. It's like, you don't understand how good this item is. It's not just for PvP. It's actually very good in PvE. Worm Husk is still good. Anything that immediately like helps you stop taking damage and recover health is just god tier in late game stuff. It's just god tier. It's you're not gonna have an issue. From Fridays, Omar and chat. One Eye's underrated in PvE, especially late game, end game PvE. It's stupid strong. I loved Last Wish, though. You could make up for so many people with skill as a Sherpa. The raid's perfect gameplay-wise. Loot, not so much. Yeah, the loot system's awful. It is. Where do you find people to raid with? We have a Discord that you can use. We still have a reasonably active Destiny community in our Discord, and then there's obviously LFG. LFG might be more effective than our Discord these days. Instant mitigation in a nutshell. Yeah, it's just instantaneous. Like, I'm invisible. I got out of the pathway of the damage, and I'm healing. Like, oh my gosh. That's everything. That's why we always got in the debates about the, we always got in the debates about, what was it? It was, Grandmaster Nightfalls. It's just, we always got in that debate about just being broken endgame philosophy, because you don't have the ability to block, parry, or dodge damage consistently enough to have high levels of damage output. We had that debate all the time. Oh my gosh, we had that debate all the time. And people just didn't see eye to eye with me on it. I couldn't convince people. I just couldn't do it. I tried. I broke everything down. I broke everything down to the hierarchy of the weapons, to the hierarchy of the enemies, to how fast enemies are allowed to shoot when they're of a lower hierarchy. I did everything I could to make it make sense to people as to why it was just total busted endgame design. And yeah, I could never get people to see my vision of it as best I could. Okay, open image in a new tab. Okay, we'll use that. Mission accomplished, chat. We got to talk Destiny today, and good afternoon to all the hate watchers that may have suddenly dropped in. Oh, we don't get hate watchers anymore, not really. I have to talk about a lot of other things to get that going, and we don't talk about that stuff anymore. They all seem to be very disappointed. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 leaks. I think you still should have played them. Oh, no, yeah, that was a lot of people's pushback. A lot of people's pushback was, you haven't played them, so how can you say it? I was like, I've watched footage. It's stupid. Why would I? You think I'm going to play it and it's going to change my mind? I've watched some of the best players play it. It looks like trash. It looks like a trash experience. That was my experience with Monster Hunter. People were like, you got to get further. You got to get further, Lono. You're not far enough in Monster Hunter to make a judgment. And I was like, okay. So that night I watched somebody who had been playing it a bunch, and they were a lot farther than me, and they had like super dope weapons and all this stuff. And it was like, it looked just as boring. It looked horribly boring. I was like, what on earth? It's the same. And I was just like, I'm not touching this game anymore, right? This guy that worked on, I didn't work on it, but I promise you, this will change AAA, what AAA means for VR. It's amazing. A former Guerrilla dev talking about the Horizon VR experience that they announced yesterday. I don't need to get kicked by a horse to know that I don't want to. That's right. That's right. It was like my argument when No Man's Sky launched. I'm like, this game looks like garbage. Well, have you played it? No. Well, then you can't comment on it. I respect your opinions and stuff, but I definitely held some of your Grandmaster comments in a lower regard. Were you ever around, Robert, when I broke down the hierarchy of your weapons and the hierarchy of the enemies and the speed and accuracy with which they fire at the different intervals of the enemies, and how when you take those lower level enemies and you suddenly mess with that hierarchy and they output way more damage than they're supposed to? Were you ever there for those arguments? I felt like I absolutely slam dunked that when I broke it down like that. I was like, this is the best argument I can make. This is broken game design. This is not how this is meant to go or whatever. I felt like that was a really well-structured argument. Obviously, I'm biased. Like, it's my argument. But I feel like that was my best attempt to say, this has not been designed properly. And you kept trying to say that rockets and machine guns were for ad clear. I remember that. Yep, I remember that. Rockets and machine guns are for ad clear. I remember all of that. Oh, man. That's good. The good old days where we debated the same thing 800 times. Okay. I gotta get an announcement going. Your thoughts on loot were spot on. Usually I would lose people when we talked about nerfs or like endgame design. That's usually when I lost people. So, all right, we're switching gears. I got Modern Warfare leaks for you. That's the next stream. A new game mode. Details about a new game mode. I don't know if Tom Henderson's going to stop by. He might. I told him what time I'd be covering it, and I double-checked with him to make sure there wasn't anything I was leaving out in my coverage. And so we're gonna do a redirect now, and the redirect should work. If the redirect doesn't work, I've got a link in chat for you. That is where we are headed. Okay. Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. This is going to be another episode of SNTR Gaming News where we cover the Modern Warfare 2 leaked gameplay info. It is about a new game mode, how long it's been worked on, some really good details from notable leaker Tom Henderson, and we're going to be combing over that. I actually checked with him in a DM, is there anything I should highlight, anything I'm missing? And he said the new game mode is really the big highlight. So if you like these types of streams, be sure to click subscribe and the bell button so you don't miss my live streams. I usually start the live stream with this very quick segment to give